Well, hello there, everybody.
Hello.
The Video Game Dads are back.
We're back.
We took kind of a long, prolonged hiatus, kind of an unplanned absence.
Yep.
But we're back, and we're here to let you know that we're still alive. We still exist.
We're still kicking.
We're still going to crank out crappy podcast episodes that you're going to pretend to enjoy.
Yep.
So this is episode 24. Yeah, 24, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, we've kind of lost count because it's been a little while, but we're going to get back on a regular schedule, trying to get these cranked out every 2 weeks, just like we were before this last hiatus. And for anybody that's wondering why we've been gone, it's mostly been because of upper respiratory illnesses spread by small children.
Yes.
That combined with Christmas. So.
Yes.
Shane's kids have had like croup.
My daughter is still dealing with her stuff, and we got croup going on. Even my dog's gotten sick. It had a form of kennel cough, which she hasn't been at a kennel, so I don't even know how she got that. So it's like we're just fighting through it. So we're finally healthy after weeks upon weeks. So
yeah, and we had the flu run through my house.
Yeah.
My kid got it, and he was sick for about a solid week, and then I got it. And
you got like pink eye too, or something.
Yeah, it was weird. I got sick. And it was sort of like if you've ever seen the movie Knocked Up when they fart on each other's pillows, and then everybody gets pink eye. Yeah. Like I'm dead sick, and I'm in the middle of this thing, and I was sick for over a week with the flu, and it's like I think it's the second sickest I've ever been. I had the H1N1 a couple of years ago that it went through, and this is the next sickest I've been relative to that. But I was sick for like a solid 8 or 9 days. Yeah. And about midway through it, I woke up in the morning and I had pink eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You know, this is bad enough. And now,
now you throw this.
Now I've got all this goop coming out of my eyeballs. Which the only thing that was making it bearable during that entire time was the fact that I could wake up and I could play some video games.
Yep.
I mean, you know, I'm all shaky and cold, but I'm like, I'm going to beat this, you know. So I actually got a lot of gaming time in during the thing. But when the pink eye set in, you can't do the games because you can't see anything. And so it's basically like being in prison, you know. So yeah, I had to go get the eye drops, and the eye drops luckily knocked it out within like a day.
Nice.
But yeah, I got the flu eye or whatever. So
it's rough.
But we're all back. We had made a couple of plans to try to get together between Christmas and everything else, but it just turned out that everybody was sick the whole time. So we're happy to be back. And for those that don't know us, we're basically 3 guys in a basement. We talk fatherhood, gaming, and everything in between.
Yep.
I'm Adam, and I'll be kind of acting as the host, I guess, today. The other guy that's talking, that is
Shane.
That's Shane. And then we have a third and new person, and that is
Michael.
And Michael's a buddy of ours, local collector here as well, and a good guy with a nice radio voice. So we thought he'd be a good addition. And just as a, you know, he's a big collector and knows a lot about games. Probably more than any of us, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
He doesn't know quite about that one.
Yeah, but I guess what's your favorite system, Michael?
I mean, really, my system that I collect for the most is the NES.
Yeah, good answer.
It's what I started with, and it's kind of my first system that I grew up with. But won all the games.
Every one of them.
Won them all.
Yeah, that's what we call a bad habit.
That's right.
Because I've got the same one. The quest for the complete NES collection is not a small one.
Yes,
that's a heavy task.
That's what my wife calls it, the bad habit.
It is a bad habit. Although there are worse habits. You know,
maybe
there is NES collecting, but then there are things like murder.
Yeah.
Or
cocaine.
Cocaine.
Yeah, or murdering people while on cocaine. Those are all worse actually.
Pile those two together.
Yeah, than just doing an NES collection. But yeah, it's still a bad habit. And you have kids?
I do have one boy. He's 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah. About
So
the same as Benjamin's child.
So you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And,
getting into everything.
And your kid's been sick too, I understand.
He has, but he is getting over it, so which is a good thing.
Well, that's good, man. You gotta build the immunities.
Yep.
That's why I said daycare. You pretty much are guaranteed to get sick in the winter.
That's true.
Oh yeah,
you're locked in.
True.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try to do everything I can to replace good old Ben.
Yeah,
but,
and don't worry, everybody. Ben isn't being
replaced.
Benjamin
will be back. And
we're starting to work in sort of fillers in case one of us is sick or our child is sick. So we're getting replacements. So there'll be a banter between three of us all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
instead
We
of
like
just me
having
and
three
Adam.
people just
Yeah.
because of the flow. So
Yeah.
So Mike will probably be back at some point in the future, and you know, there may be some episodes where there's four of us.
Yeah.
We're just kind of seeing how it goes, and we're just trying to figure out a way that we can try to get consistent with the episodes.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. So, but Benjamin will be back, and he just has some stuff going on right now. He's really busy with work and everything, so he will be back, and we miss him right now, but he'll be back.
We've been missing our listeners, and we've had a lot of nice letters and
Yeah,
and
people have
contact
wrote
from
us.
listeners like, "Where are you guys?
Yeah,
Everybody
you guys
okay?
coming back? Yeah,
And
yes,
did you
we're back."
quit?" And everything. So I kind of feel bad because I feel like I've let people down,
Yeah.
but no, we're back.
The
and
band is back.
Yeah, so we didn't. Yeah, Yoko has been
Thrown out.
yeah, Yoko's out of the group. You know, we're all back together.
Yeah, we're all back together. Don't worry about us, guys.
Yeah. So in any respect, we'll,
Mediocre podcast is coming back to you.
that's right. Yeah, you can't keep this down. So for anybody who's interested, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/videogamedads. You can email us at
Videogamedads at
yahoo.com.
Yahoo. Yeah.
And you can find us on the Twitterverse
Oh, yeah.
or the Instagram-ish
And now,
or Snapchat or whatever
where can they find us now, Adam?
at Video Game Dads.
Well, no, YouTube.
Oh, yeah, and you can also find us on YouTube.
We have our episodes on there.
We have all of our episodes are now on YouTube. We've
Yeah.
joined the future.
Yes.
We joined the past future. And so I've released all of the episodes onto YouTube. So they are there. There's also a few videos and odds and ends of
Yeah.
me streaming or
We're
recording
testing
a
out
little bit of
streaming and stuff.
yeah,
so.
a little bit of video game footage. And what I'm going to try to do in the episodes going forward, at least as best I can, there's some logistics that goes into recording, especially off of old systems. But I'm going to try to record some gameplay from our book club picks
that'd be cool.
and
That's
just
cool.
kind of
Yeah.
things that we're doing in general. And it may just be little snippets or whatever. So subscribe to our YouTube, follow us there. Of course, you can message us there and everything else. So feel free to look for us on that avenue. And of course, you can find us on any podcast app, basically known to man for the most part.
Stitcher.
Stitcher, Podbean,
iTunes,
Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. And please leave us reviews, especially positive reviews, because that helps us, helps the podcast get seen.
Throw them thumbs up for us too.
Yeah,
on
give us some thumb
YouTubes.
uppies or whatever. Send us emails. We like hearing from you guys and like communicating back and forth. So please do that. So in this episode, we're going to talk about our video game book club picks. We're going to get you kind of caught up on the things that we've been doing for the last month or so while we've been gone. We have an interesting interview with Brett Weiss, an author who writes about video games, helps perpetuate the video game mythology and preserve it for future generations. That'll be at the end of the podcast, so please listen to what Brett has to say. Yeah. So we very much appreciate him being on the episode. You can visit his website at brettweisswords.com. But he'll talk a lot about his projects and things that I think a lot of you will find very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Towards the end of the episode. So without further ado, we'll move on to the video game book club picks. Brought to you by the Nintendo Power Glove.
The Power Glove for your Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you and the games are one. The Power Glove. Everything else is child's play.
We're going to talk about D for the Sega Saturn. D for the Sega Saturn. So this was actually Benjamin's pick.
Yeah.
So this will be kind of fun. We'll get to talk about his game without having him around, which would be kind of nice. So D is a game for the Sega Saturn. I'll pull up my notes here. It was released in 1995 on the Saturn, but it also came out on the 3DO. There's also a PlayStation version, and there was actually also a DOS version.
Oh, really?
For people that like command lines. So it came out on all three of those. It was published by Acclaim and Panasonic, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think Panasonic probably did the 3DO version, would be my guess, and Acclaim probably did the others. It came out on those platforms, developed by Warp, game made in Japan. And I don't really even know exactly how to describe this game. You know, we had read the back of the box on the last episode, and for anybody that didn't hear it, you should go back and listen to the back of the box. This one has a good one. But it's essentially an FMV walking simulator / survival horror game.
Yeah.
It is very emblematic of the time that it came out.
Yes,
I think.
very much so. It's very like Myst style.
Sort of. It's Myst, but it's not stills. You know, it's walking between things. But it's walk here, pick up things. Try to figure out where to place thing to make something else open up or be able
trigger,
to be able to open up some door or some lever. Yeah.
Very mystery.
And but it starts out with an FMV sequence where you're basically a good-looking 90s woman.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're supposed to be. It's kind of it's really
rough
FMV.
Yes.
But you're a very prototypical blonde mid-90s.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm trying to think of an actress to maybe a Michelle Pfeiffer or a Sharon Stone type. And your father is like the lead doctor, the lead psychiatrist at LA County Hospital or something.
Yeah, and he goes crazy or something.
Yeah, and it turns out that he's basically a Satan worshiper or something, and he's turned the hospital into a delirium nightmare.
Yeah.
And so it's your job to go and unravel the mystery.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the setup. Not to spoil too much because it gives you all that in like the first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
But basically it's you kind of walking around trying to unravel this thing. And basically, I mean, you can tell me what you think about it, but it's essentially a trial and error kind of game.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these games.
Go there, go here. Does this going to work for it? Yeah. This really
you know, here's a lever. Can you remember any place that this might have fit? You know, that kind of thing. And of course, there are areas where you take a wrong turn, and then a spike goes through your head, or whatever.
Yeah, don't go through there again. It sort of gives you like, the spike one was really good.
Yeah,
you think you're about to get hit the spikes,
and it's a very dark game, and I mean dark in theme, but also in color. Yeah. It's just like it's very black and brown and gray.
The game would have scared the crap out of me as a kid though, with the music and stuff. It does have very good like tone to it of like setting up everything, but I don't know. It's very, very just slow paced game.
Yeah.
She walks like a 90-year-old woman like the whole time, and it's like, oh boy, can you just speed up? Is there a turbo button? Is there anything? It's like, no, you just click forward, wait about a minute to get to where you're going to go.
We were playing it earlier with Michael, and that's what his comment was on it.
Yeah, I couldn't keep playing that. It's too slow. It takes you 5 minutes to get from one door to the other.
Yeah.
And I don't know with all the slow walking if that has more to do with the fact that it's just not a particularly long game.
Yeah.
And that's true. It kept the graphics looking real nice, but
and it does. It makes the graphics where they don't fuzz out on
it. Exactly.
Because it's so slow. I didn't really notice
that, but that's true. That probably did help.
And when I was playing it, I thought, well, it's kind of a suspense thing, you know, because it
does do a good job on that. I'll give it the suspense. Like if I had the lights out, and I would still be a little scared right now if I was all by myself. But, I mean,
and this came out. I mean, it was contemporary, you know, basically with like Resident Evil, you know, Resident Evil 1, and I think that this game, and it got good reviews and had a pretty good reception, I think, when it came out. But it, you know, for lack of a better term, I think got overshadowed a lot by you know Resident Evil 1 when it came out.
It's had a little more action in it.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, I mean, you could think of this as like Resident Evil 1, the FMV version.
Yeah, that would be a good way.
If that makes sense. But
it's the broke down Resident Evil version.
Sort of. But for, you know, you know, unlike Resident Evil, though, it doesn't have the tank controls. You know, that, I mean, so it kind of has its pluses and has its minuses. And I don't know, have either one of you gone back and tried to play Resident Evil 1 like within the last few years?
I still love the tank controllers. But I imagine its graphics are a little rough.
Oh yeah, they're rough. You like the tank controls?
I like them. It shows off the atmosphere more and everything. I like that.
Well, then the thing about the tank controls, they're so bad that it's like it makes the suspense go up, right?
Because
you can't. You can't aim where you want to, and you're always between, because it has the pre-rendered backgrounds, and then your polygonal character kind of like superimposed on this. Like you're always like in a hallway, but the guy that's trying to get you is like around the corner on the other image.
So then you want to get them back over to the area that you want, so you know how to work the controller there. Yeah, that's
it's really It dates the game a lot, but it
yeah.
also adds some to the suspense.
Yeah,
and you know, and this game is kind of the same way. I mean, if you play it now, it's a very, very dated game.
Yeah,
I feel like.
yeah, it didn't age well at all.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a game from 1995 that's an FMV game,
Yeah.
right?
It was, yeah.
But if you sort of view it in the context, I think of...
Yeah, a product of its time back then.
It's not bad. Especially, so I don't know. It's hard to, I think, recommend it just generically to any given person, but I think if anybody is a fan of...
that style of game, I would recommend it. But if you're not a fan of a survival horror, then I would probably steer clear of it because you'd probably get really bored of it really quick, I would say.
Or you'd just be like, what? I don't know what's going on. What I'm supposed to do.
But if you like this kind of... I mean, I would play this game. If I had more time, I'd play it.
Well, and I'll have to admit, I got frustrated a couple of times with it and looked up long plays on YouTube or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's what I do with that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure back in the day that, basically added to the replay value, of it. Because you can beat this game, I think, in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. It's not a particularly long game.
Like you said, it would go a lot quicker if she didn't move like an 80-year-old woman in a wheelchair.
Well, and it's kind of like Benjamin talked about, on the last episode, is that you basically get like 3 hours to beat it. No pauses, no continues, no
nothing,
no saving in the middle, no nothing. You basically have to sit down and beat the whole thing in one whack. And so every time you play, you basically get to this part where you got stuck the last time.
Yep.
Try to beat that part, and then figure out the next place you're going to get stuck, and then you get frustrated, turn it off, and then the next time you come back, you try to beat that, which in a way is a lot like Myst. This is not. I don't even know if you guys remember Myst. That's been so long ago.
It's been really long since. But
the thing with Myst was, at least for me, I don't know if I'm not smart enough for Myst. I don't think anybody's smart enough for Myst. But unless you knew exactly what to do in Myst, the 6 marbles have to be arranged in this particular pattern or whatever. Like there just wasn't any way, unless
no real way.
I mean, unless you just didn't have a job and want to sit there,
move marbles around.
Flipping switches and moving around marbles all day. It's
strategy guide would have done you very well.
It's not to that extent, but it's kind of
there. Yeah,
I think similarly. So it's a recommendation, but with the caveat of if you like survival horror.
What's this game? What's it going for? What's this game going for about now?
It's pretty expensive, I think. I didn't look it up today, but I think it runs like $60-$70 on the Saturn.
CIB, yep, okay.
And I think it's around a $50 game on PlayStation. I think it's a little bit cheaper, but
not
it
much.
ain't cheap. And I've got it on Saturn, and I actually have the 3DO version.
Oh, do you?
And the 3DO version is kind of expensive too. I think it's like a $60 or $70 game. Yeah. So it's kind of expensive no matter where you get it. And the other thing that just as a little bit of backstory on this game too that makes it a little bit interesting is there's D, which is the first game, but the sequel to D is Enemy Zero.
Did that come out over
here? Yeah, it did. It came out on Saturn. I've got actually the Japanese version of Enemy Zero for the Saturn, and then D2 came out, and D2 was on the Dreamcast.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and honestly,
I forgot that came out on Dreamcast.
I can't remember exactly how they're all related to each other, whatever. But I think Enemy Zero is actually the direct sequel to this, but D2 is not.
Or something
really like there's something real weird with the canon on this one, and feel free to email if you know it a little bit better than us. But I know that the sequels to it are a little bit strange because of that Enemy Zero and then D2.
Yeah.
D2 is actually not the second game; it's the third.
I totally forgot about D2 on Dreamcast. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's actually all of them are actually fairly sought after games.
Yeah.
I mean, because people who like this genre of game want these kind of games. Absolutely, that are old. So, so anywho, if you see any of those, that's the trilogy, and how much you have to play D before you play Enemy Zero to know what's going on. I doubt you have to do any of that. But I don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
So that was Benjamin's pick. So we're going to move on to our listener pick, which was Hot Wheels Turbo Racing.
Yes.
And this is a game that was developed by Stormfront Studios and published by EA back before they were totally evil.
Yeah, before the evilness rose up in them.
Back before they only did serialized yearly releases of sports games or whatever it is that they do now. But it was released in '99 to both the N64 and the PS1.
Yeah.
So we played it on the N64
yeah.
because that's the version that I have.
Yeah.
So I think that the listener pick was actually
The
kind of for the
PS1
PS1 game. But I actually looked for it in a lot of local stores. I could not find a physical copy of it for PS1, which I'm sure it's super common. I just couldn't find one.
Yeah. We sort of looked at the PS1 version. They pretty much look about the same. I mean, the PS1 version looks a little bit better, but they play the same. It looks like pretty much. I mean, except for you don't have the weird N64 controller, and then the graphics are a little bit worse on the N64 version. But
I think
we were able to play it.
Yeah, you got to pick your graphical demon. You either get the twitchy, weird, lines that don't make sense and the warping and all that for the PlayStation 1, or you get the the mud smudgy,
block. Oh, yeah.
Stuff. And it actually, I mean, it plays well on the N64. It holds its frame rate probably at least a solid 30 the whole way through. Yeah. One of the claims to fame of the game is the soundtrack.
The soundtrack.
So it's got Metallica song on it. It's got a Primus song. It's got a Reverend Horton Heat song.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it did have a good soundtrack.
And I'm trying to remember there's some rap group or something like It's not Run DMC, but it's somebody like that. It's also on the soundtrack. But yeah, like on the PlayStation label, I think it's like Hot Wheels.
Yeah, they were really repping to go with it.
Yeah, it's like we got to get the kids on the Metallica early.
Oh yeah,
get you some Metallica.
So and I think as you can probably guess because of the cartridge format, the N64 audio is.
Yeah, we didn't really get that as much. The audio wasn't as
well. It's just
not quite as crisp.
Yeah. Well, they never have the full tracks. They're always shorter and sampled at a lot lower rates and all that kind of thing, just to save space on the cartridge. So what did you guys think about this one?
This one, I didn't really care for that much. It was okay. It had a decent selection of cars. What we add up?
I think 21 cars.
21
so
cars.
Yeah, it gave you good options.
And I imagine there's more ones that you could get to.
We figured there's unlockables. We didn't quite get that far to unlock. We unlocked a couple, but yeah.
Tracks. My biggest issue was the tracks are really narrow. They're trying to do like the actual like Hot Wheels on how like you set up a Hot Wheel car, but then you go outside, so then it breaks away from that. But it's only in a very small section, so it's just really tight, and it's just not that fun when it does that. If it had more room to move around and dodge through stuff, but it's so tight the whole time. I just found it sort of boring. It's like you're cleaning against the wall all the time.
It's sort of repetitious.
Very much.
It's a serviceable game.
Yeah.
But it's a serviceable game.
Yeah, I liked it better than our other book club review, San Francisco Rush. I liked it better.
I think it is probably a better game than San Francisco Rush.
I think Benjamin will probably argue on that one. He liked San Francisco Rush a little bit.
Well, the only thing I think this thing would have helped with something that San Francisco Rush had, in that you could kind of go off track in San Francisco Rush and kind of make your own path, whereas this one made you take 4 laps every time. And it got really repetitive. There's only 6 other cars you race against. And you barely saw those cars.
So they were mostly because they were smoking.
That could have been true too.
And then it gives you points.
That's true.
For doing different tricks and things. There's turbo boosting.
But your tricks are sort of whack because all you do is you turn to the left. There's like, I was trying to front flip and my car wasn't doing the front flip or back flip, and I was like, come on.
So this game it puts me in mind of 2 games that are better than it. The first one being Extreme G.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
1 and 2, which I actually really like Extreme G, and for anybody that, through my rose-colored glasses, having played it back when I was a teenager and stuff, so I haven't actually played it in a long time. But Extreme G, for those that don't know, is basically it's a poor man's Wipeout. It's like Wipeout. It's not as good as Wipeout, but it's not horrible. And then the game that's actually really good on the N64 that this puts me in mind of is Episode 1 Pod Racer. Especially if you have the expansion pack. Because the graphics and the textures in this are very, very similar, but Episode 1 Pod Racer is a little bit more refined. It's got a little bit better frame rate issue. Gives you a little bit better sense of speed. There's a little bit more variety and customization.
See, I had trouble with on this one. My car would get stuck sort of upside down in a weird...
this one, the physics were a little weird.
The physics were sort of weird.
You'd be cooking along and you're like, man, I'm killing it. And then all of a sudden you're flipping upside down backwards on your hood on the wall or something. And you're like, how did I get here? What did I do? And so, the physics kind of have a little bit of a mind of their own. But I think on the N64, if you want to play a quote unquote futuristic racing sim, episode 1 Pod Racer is probably your best bet.
Yeah. And it probably would have helped if did you guys play this as a kid or anything?
I did not.
See, I didn't either. Yeah, so I think that probably would have helped if I played this as a kid. I sort of looking back, I probably would have digged this a little bit. I mean, it would have been all right.
If I would have played this back in the day, I would have liked it a lot. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And to its what's the word I'm looking for? In its defense, like Pod Racer was like a very late release of the N64. It was kind of near the tail end. I mean, it came out for like N64 and Dreamcast, and that sort of thing. Yeah. So it was a really kind of a late release. And actually, one of the things that I wasn't even aware of was like, a while back you picked up that N64 with the episode 1 Pod Racer box. I didn't know that it was ever a pack-in game for the N64, but it actually was.
Yep.
So here's your little bit of trivia. There's a cool
little bit of knowledge for you.
Yeah, there's your knowledge. There's a cool black N64 box. Do you have that?
Yeah, I had never even knew there was a box like that until I saw Shane's.
Yeah, Shane texted me a picture one day. He's like, "Look what I found," and I'm like, "I kind of hate you because I didn't even know that existed."
I had never seen it.
When I got it, I didn't even know about it either. I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'll take that. That'll work."
Yeah, but and Pod Racer. The Dreamcast version's actually better of the two, obviously, but it's a pretty good game on either system. So I basically used the review of this game to talk about a better game.
Yeah. Sorry.
So that's all we ever do is compare them to other things.
So I think it's not a. I'm not going to recommend against this game.
No, I won't recommend against it.
But I'm also going to recommend that if you have an N64 and you want to play a good racing sim that's kind of
there's other ones out there
not realistic. Yeah. There's a couple that are better.
Yeah. I mean, I'd recommend giving it a little bit of a shot. I mean, I'll try to play it a little bit more when I'm able to get it in my collection.
And the funny thing is, I know that I've played it in the past, but like Wipeout 64 is a thing. There is a Wipeout for the N64. For the life of me, and I know I played it, I cannot remember a darn thing about it. It must have just been kind of generic. I don't know, because I remember the PlayStation one fine. Yeah.
That was one of the first releases. Wipeout was on the PlayStation.
It was. It was a Psygnosis, I guess, was the developer, and I think it was. It was Wipeout 1, 2, and I think 3 came out for PS1, and then I think Wipeout 64 was kind of late in that cycle.
Yeah, the cycle.
If that makes sense, but I remember it coming out, and I remember playing it, and I remember it being kind of all rightish, but I don't remember a darn specific thing about it. I really don't. So that's basically it for I think what we're going to talk about on these picks, right?
Yep.
So our next dad pick is Shane's actually. So we were having some debate about this, and I was twisting his arm a little bit towards the things that I like, but I think he's going to go.
I went against him. I ended up going with something super pretty expensive, and I actually have it. I got it loose disc. Is Saturn Bomberman.
Saturn Bomberman. So what's cool about Saturn Bomberman?
It's probably the best version of Bomberman. I would say
that's probably accurate. And
I'm being sort of selfish. I just want to play local multiplayer with you guys, so that's why I really picked it. So then I can have an excuse and say to my wife,
"But what's cool about the multiplayer? Do you know what's cool about the multiplayer?"
Well, we would need 5 other people to play.
We do, so we could do some 12-player freaking Bomberman, dude.
Is it more than that? I thought it was.
I think it's 12, right? Or is it 12 or 14?
I think it's like 14. It's more than that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Or maybe it's 10. I don't remember, but you have to get like 2 of the Saturn taps, and then. Maybe it's 10. I don't remember. I've
only played with 8, so that's all I know.
You're beating me. I've played it with 4.
Well, during the next episode, I'll figure out what the max players you could have. Not that I'll round up that many friends, but we'll get like 3 or 4 people playing.
So question: do you guys have the taps for?
I do have one. Yes.
Okay, you have.
I only have one controller for the Saturn, so
I might have a tap. I'm gonna have to go through some boxes.
Okay, I got a tap, so we're good.
But yeah, I've seen internet.
Everybody's gonna have to bring their own controller, though.
And it looks like total chaos when you have that many
controllers.
Yeah. Okay.
When you have that many people playing Bomberman, but no, it's I haven't played it in a while, and I too have a copy, but it's also a loose disc copy, mine. Yep.
But I've only got to play it for about an hour, and what I've played was, and I'm a big Bomberman fan. Not that I have all the games or anything, but man, it is really good. It's very bright, very colorful, very just.
It's very cartoony.
Yeah, very cartoony. Yeah. Sort of a little different than all the other ones. I mean, way more cartoony Japanese sort of like.
Well, it's
style.
On the Saturn. Saturn does such a good job on 2D games.
Yeah. The one player is really good too. It's like a sort of a story that you work through and everything, unlike the NES version type stuff. So
all right. So we'll do that. I guess we shouldn't talk about it too much.
Yeah.
So we can
I'm
review it
excited
on the
about
next
it. You can
episode.
tell.
Yeah, but as an aside, and I don't know what it is, but I am terrible at Bomberman games.
Really, I'm not very good.
Are you
either.
good at Bomberman?
I'm not terribly great. I would just say I'm okay.
Typically, I am horrible.
As much as I talk about Bomberman and always wanting to get like the big box Bomberman and all this junk, is like I'm actually not that good at Bomberman, but I don't know. I just really like playing with people with it. So.
Yeah, so we have a friend, another guy that collects retro games here in Kansas City, and he's like, he comes to some of our game nights and that sort of thing, and he's like the Rain Man.
Oh yeah,
Bomberman.
Yeah,
it's his game.
And actually,
he crushed us. Yeah.
Actually, Norm, the gaming historian, is a pretty good Bomberman player too.
Yeah, he whooped our butt too.
Yeah, he's serviceable. That and the two games that he's like weirdly good at are kind of this and NES Baseball.
Oh yeah,
like he smoked me at NES Baseball.
I'd like to challenge him in NES Baseball.
Yeah, you think you could
I had that as a kid.
Ben, he's a pretty ringer too.
He's not bad. Yeah, Dusty Diamonds too.
Oh, Dusty Diamonds too. Yeah, I'm garbage on those.
So that'll be our dad pick, Saturn Bomberman. Yep. So get out your wallets if you want to play along.
If you want to play along,
and there is no emulation for this one. So
sorry, guys.
Find somebody that's got it.
I'm being very selfish.
And we'll go on to our fan pick. So we got. Since it's been a little while since we recorded, we got a few fan suggestions here, and the first is from Clint.
Hi Clint.
Hi Clint. He says he says he found us through Bithead 1000.
All right.
One of our favorite YouTubers.
Yes.
And he's got a daughter and like shooters and so forth. But he suggested, and I love this suggestion actually because I love this game. Shatterhand.
Oh, for nice.
Yep.
I never played it, but I always heard good things.
Yeah, it's good.
If you want to see super awesome label art.
Oh yeah, I know that label.
Yeah, the label art for this one is so good.
Yeah,
and it only could have come from the early '90s when it was released. I think this is a Jaleco game.
Yeah,
Jaleco, or however you pronounce that.
Yep.
But it's basically a side scroller beat 'em up. But the hook on this game is you pick these power ups up and you have this like decapitated robot. I shouldn't say decapitated. The lower half of the robot is missing. So you have the torso of an upper half of a robot that follows you around, and depending on what power-ups you pick up, he shoots corresponding projectiles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So it's not a super expensive NES game. It's not a cheap NES game. It's kind of one of those 40, it's one of those mid-range kind of NES games, but really good pick. It's a really good game.
Awesome.
So I'd be down to play that anytime.
Yeah.
The next one is from James, and he says he marathoned all of our episodes over a week because he hates himself. He didn't say that actually. He was very nice. He said something about being in prison and they were trying to get information. No, I made that up too. Yeah. But he has two picks for the PS1, and the first of those is a game called Unholy War, and the second is a game called Running Wild. I don't know squat about either one of these games, to be honest.
I think Running Wild is an RPG, I want to say. It's got like a blue-haired person on the front. I'm not for sure.
Maybe. It sounds like a movie that starred Kevin Costner. It's like the sequel to Dances with Wolves.
What was the first one?
Unholy War.
Unholy War. Mm-mm. I don't. That's my pick. Because we got to pick between one of those, right?
Yeah, we're gonna pick one of those two.
I'll go Unholy War.
Unholy War.
You want? What do you guys?
What do you got?
What do you got?
That sounds good.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do Unholy War. Then.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah, we got to pick the ones that sound more M-rated. So the next pick we have is from Ian. Says that he found out about us from Middle Jesus Rocks, I think. Somebody was wearing our t-shirt, so that's cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he kind of makes fun of Benjamin because Benjamin has incessantly talked about Horizon Zero Dawn on basically every episode since we started recording.
That's his jam, man. Yeah. That's his jam.
And in Benjamin's defense, so I started actually playing Horizon Zero Dawn about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. It's pretty good.
Really good?
It would not be my game of the year of last year, but...
that came out right when Breath of the Wild came out,
basically,
correct? Which kind of ate away a little bit at it.
Yeah, and it is not as good as Breath Breast of the Wild.
Oh boy,
close enough.
But it is not as good as Breath of the Wild, I don't think. But it's really my only trouble with it is it's a very stealthy game, and I'm not a big fan of stealthy games in general. But it's not annoying stealth like some of the Metal Gear games.
Yeah, Metal Gear. Yeah, get a little too stealthy.
But it's I shouldn't knock it. It's really good. I mean, I would give it like a 9.5. I mean, it's
Is it similar to like the Assassin's Creed kind of stealth?
Kind of. Yeah. It's forgiving stealth. I mean, even if you get caught, you can kind of get away.
Yeah, that's my kind of stealth.
So it's
that's what I sort of got from it.
It's not like Metal Gear where you get discovered and then you're immediately dead. Until you find the next way through. But there's a lot of leveling up. The aesthetics of it are really cool. It's super good graphics. I mean, it's probably
those graphics look awesome.
Yeah, it's probably if not the best looking game, one of the best looking games of the last year.
Yeah, I'll have to pick that up.
But it's very good. I think you can get it for. I mean, if you search around, you can get it for around $20.
Yeah,
$20. And the reason I started playing it is because there was like a Best Buy deal, like not Black Friday, but like some before Christmas thing, and I think I got it for $15.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
Yeah. So, but it's a very good game, highly recommended. But we've talked enough about it on this damn podcast for sure. So
Ben's not here. We're not talking about it.
Benjamin's not here. No more Horizon Zero Dawn.
You're listening.
But basically says that he likes the way they talk about all the dad stuff, and he recommends a game called Crash and the Boys.
And the Boys,
which is an NES game.
Yep.
Which I think is this an unlicensed game? I'm trying to remember.
No, I think it's licensed.
Is it licensed?
Yeah, it's a licensed game.
But Crash and the Boys, and it's kind of a beat 'em up. I think kind of like Renegade. He says it's like Renegade, or sorry, River City Ransom.
Yep.
Yeah. But best played with multiple people, that kind of thing.
That's a good choice.
So I think this one's a good choice. Just as background, I love side-scrolling beat-em-ups for whatever reason. I don't care if they're arcade games or NES games or whatever. There's something about monotonously just walking around beating people up that's just kind of fun. But
especially if they got that nice thud when they hit somebody too. It just feels so...
Well, and you think that the games wouldn't be any fun because they're so repetitious, right? Just like any of the Ninja Turtle games or any of those. But they're all
as soon as you see a new boss or new character, just like, yes, I'm going to kick his butt.
Well, the best thing is, I'm not sure if this is the same way, but a lot of those old NES side-scrollers, they would have like one player, and then they'd have two-player A, two-player B.
Yeah.
So you could hit each other.
Yeah. So like two-player A, you couldn't hit each other or something, but like two-player B, you could actually injure the person that you were playing with, and that was always the funnest. Yeah,
I hate it. Were you that person that always beat up the other person?
You'd always be like,
Adam was.
You would, you'd be yelling at each other. You stay on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll stay on the right, or you stay at the top, and I'll stay at the bottom.
Yeah. You see him start working up your way, and you're like, oh, he's gonna do it.
You'd always end up at some point. Somebody would get angry at the other person, and then it would just turn into a brawl between the two people who are supposed to be playing co-op.
That's why I hated playing that way.
The one game though that's like this that everybody will remember is Battletoads.
Yep.
Because Battletoads you couldn't turn it off.
Yep.
Battletoads was two-player B, and you were stuck with it. And not only that, if one player died, it would restart both of you back at like the beginning of the level or the checkpoint or whatever, which made Battletoads impossible to play two-player. Yeah. I'm not sure that Battletoads has ever been beaten two-player. I'm sure it probably has been done.
Yeah, I had that as a kid, and I used to force my brother just to sit and watch me play.
Yeah,
because we couldn't play together.
It was all fine and good until you go down the tunnel in the second stage, because that's when you turn into the little. What is it? The wrecking ball or whatever? Because there's no way you could not hit the person that you were with.
That was the problem.
Yeah, and even if you could make it through there. So me and my brothers, and they were younger than me, and consequently not as good. Yeah. So it used to lead to a lot of fights. But we could get through the tunnel phase, but then you would get to the speeder bike phase. Oh, and if one person hits a wall in the speeder bike phase, it's over. Yeah. You're back. So two-player, you'd never get past that speeder because it's darn near impossible single player.
Yes, I hate that stage. That's one of the worst stages ever invented.
Since I'm off on the tangent of Battletoads, the most irritating thing about Battletoads is that there's a cheat, and I don't remember what it is. It's not the Konami code or whatever, but there is a code that you can put in gives you like infinite lives, or I don't remember what it is exactly. It makes you impervious to damage or something. But if you use the cheat and then you beat the game with the cheat, the Black Witch at the end of the game tells you cheated.
Oh, really?
And they will not. And they will not. She's like,
calls you out on it.
She's like, I can't remember exactly what it says, but she's like, well, you cheated, and then it's just back to the beginning of the game.
Man.
You know,
that's rough.
No cutscene for you.
No, it's awful.
No soup for you.
Yeah, no, you just So you can't, because I remember because the internet was not a thing back at the time, or maybe it was in Al Gore's basement or whatever, but the rest of us didn't have it. And I remember when like Nintendo Power or whatever published the cheat, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my god, I'm going to get to see the end of Battletoads. And I went and I put in the cheat, and then I played all the way through it. And then the programmers at Rare were like, no. It's almost as bad as the Ghosts and Goblins, where it's like, oh, you beat this super hard game, beat it again, and we'll show you the ending.
Yep.
You know.
But, except for that time, you didn't even cheat.
Yeah, except for that time. Well, to be fair, when I was a kid, I did not get to the end of Ghosts and Goblins. Too tough a game.
Yeah, that is very tough.
But
so that's our pick.
So that's our pick. So we need to go to the randomizer here.
We throw them in.
Yep, I've already pre-entered them into the randomizer. So I'm going to hit the button.
All right.
And we got Extra Innings from Greg.
All right.
Which is, I think, an NES game.
Is it
right?
NES?
I think so.
Ooh,
no?
Is that Any Extra Innings?
I'm going to have to go back and look through the emails.
Okay. Well, we'll get it sorted out.
What that's on.
But I remember Extra Innings on Genesis, correct?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. That's what I
But it could
have been on another system too. I think it was 16-bit.
We'll have to double check what he wanted, and see if we got it.
It should definitely be 16-bit.
So
Dr. Google this one. And Dr. Google says it's a Super Nintendo game. And just to be fair, we're not professional video gamers.
No, we're not.
We're just dudes with jobs that like to
There's
talk
thousands
about
of
it.
them.
Yeah.
We know most of them, but
cut us a little slack, please.
Well, and my knowledge of sports games is not good.
Yeah.
Just in the general sense, clearly.
Yeah.
All right, so there's one other thing that we wanted to discuss as well, and that was before Christmas. We actually did get together on a was it Saturday morning?
Saturday morning. Yes.
Yeah, Saturday morning, and we went to Warrensburg, Missouri.
Road trip
To Warrensburg, Missouri.
Yep.
There's a store out there called Rockin' Sports.
Yeah.
Really nice guy.
Amazing store, nice guy.
Yeah, the store's got a ton of cool stuff in it, and every year he does a pre-Christmas sale.
Yep.
And basically, the sale this year was all of the modern systems, meaning like PS2 and newer, were 50% off.
Yep.
And then
great deal.
Yeah. And for some of the higher end stuff, for the first 50 people, was it 30 people? You got a
golden ticket.
Yeah, if you showed up early, you got a golden ticket, which reserved an item in the store for you.
Yep.
Okay, because by fire code, I think they can only have like 30 people in the store or something like that. Yep. So we all woke up at, I think, like 4:30 in the morning or something.
You picked me up right at 4:30, like, I don't remember 5 or something. I mean,
so we all met at Benjamin's, and then we drove over to Warrensburg, and it was super early. And then we went to McDonald's, and they like screwed up the coffee or something. And then
we're a little worried, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to drive back, but then we got in line, and we were, I think, 8th or 9th or 10th in line, something like that. And it was cold. It was oh gosh, it must have been 15 or 20 degrees outside.
Yeah, it was super cold.
And,
we didn't bring no chairs.
Yeah, we didn't bring any chairs. I was very ill prepared. At least you brought your Switch.
I did bring my Switch though. I was prepared on that.
Yeah, and so you and Benjamin and I kind of rocked out on some Mario Kart.
Play a little Mario Kart on the Switch.
while we were sitting out in the cold with the rest of the goofballs.
Yep.
And
then we played a little bit of Snipper Clips.
Yeah, some Snipper Clips. Have you played Snipper Clips, Michael?
I have not. I don't have a Switch.
You don't have a Switch?
No. Well, I'm about to get one though pretty soon. I know. I got the Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, and I've got the Mario Kart on the Wii U. So there's a lot of games that I have, and now the Odyssey's out, so I think I'm ready. Actually, I dropped a hint to my wife for Christmas. She didn't pick it up.
You gotta
Didn't quite
start
marinate
hitting
enough for
harder,
you.
dude.
She said, "How many systems do you have? And do you need another one?" And I looked at her and I said, "I don't think this is happening, but you know."
No, man, this isn't.
You should have took her magazines that she reads and then had like articles of the Switch and stuffed them in there.
Yeah,
so like the Christmas story. I mean,
I needed to work a little harder, I guess. Yeah. But unfortunately, I don't have one. I am looking forward to getting one pretty soon. But I was, holding out to see if maybe my wife wanted to give me a nice little present.
Yeah. But the cool thing was, even at this sale, he had the Switch games 50% off. So I actually picked up ARMS.
Nice, good. Kid will love that. Has he played it yet?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we ARMS and Bomberman.
Nice.
For the Switch were the two Switch games that I picked up. But I picked up a whole bunch of games. I got a bunch of PS4 games. I got a bunch of PS3 games. I got a few PS2 games. So I have a mental disorder, and I love strategy guides.
Yeah, strategy
and so he
guides
had
too.
these boxes full of like strategy guides and stuff. So I bought probably 30 pounds of strategy while I was there too. I bought about as much strategy guide as I could carry with me and the games back out of the store.
Your muscle-on's got a little bit of work carrying those
I'm
out.
telling you, yeah. And my weak, feeble old man arms, they were like all cramped up like the next day from carrying all the strategy guides. But they were all like NES era, Super Nintendo
cool
era.
Stuff.
They were good strategy guides. I was like, man, I'm getting these. They were, with the 50% off, they were a couple of dollars a piece. So
this was one of those good 50% off. I wasn't able to go because I was working, but I mean, these games were very inexpensive.
Yeah. And so I loaded up. I can't even remember exactly what I got.
Well, and Benjamin was with us also, and he picked up some beers. He went off the wall and got some beer signs and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
So he got some interesting stuff too.
Yeah, and I bought I got a couple of big collector's editions, like PlayStation 4 games or whatever, because those were 50% off.
Those are cool. Yep.
And it was a really good trip, but
I ended up getting a sealed Walking Dead, the collector's edition with the big book inside.
For the 360.
For 360 for a really good deal. I just seen it at Vintage.
And
They're
I
trying to sell it for like $80, and I think I got mine for 30, 35.
25, I think it was, or something,
25,
wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was
that's the only
really,
thing I ended up picking up just because I'm cheap, I guess.
No, I mean that was a super cool.
I had to get that.
Yeah, that was a super cool thing. And honestly, the coolest / weirdest thing I got while I was there, I always like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Which is another part of my problem, I guess. But he had a box, like I think it's new, Intellivision voice synthesizer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And so the Intellivision, for people that don't know, it's kind of contemporary with the Atari 2600, but it was a Mattel device, so it's made by a toy manufacturer. But it was it's got controllers that are kind of like little phone pads, the sort of like
funky,
ColecoVision or one of those. But it had a voice synthesizer that you could snap onto the side of it. And I'm not sure, it may have been the first voice synthesizing thing that you could get on a home console. And there was
definitely one of the earliest.
Yeah, and there's only a handful of games that actually take advantage of it. But you'll see people go like, B-27 bomber, but that's like making fun of. It's like this horrible text to voice kind of thing, but it's just such a weird deal.
Yeah,
and it's something you never see, especially like new in the box. I think I got it for $7.
Yeah, man,
you can't beat that. And I was like, "There's no way I'm not buying this thing for $7." And it's kind of funny because Nolan, the guy that runs the store, every time I go in there, I always buy something just like super freaking weird. It's been there for like 30 years. And he's always like, you need to come in here more often because I sell you all the crap that like nobody else wants. That's just been like underneath a shelf someplace that nobody cares about or whatever else. Because the last time I was out there, I bought an Aura activator. You ever seen one of these?
Yeah, the body suits, isn't that right?
Yeah. So
it's
essentially a crappy like subwoofer from the 80s that you strap directly onto your chest.
Yeah, it makes like a rumble pack on your chest.
Yeah. And I'm certain that someone at some point, I'm sure that the reason that went off the market is because some kid spilled high C on himself and got electrocuted. Yeah, but you put on your Aura activator, you get your Sega Interactor.
Oh man,
which for those that don't know is the hexagon.
You stand in there
with the laser lights. They'd always show it on with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You could. It's just like being in the game.
No.
I don't think it worked too well.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. Yeah, but yeah, if you had the Aura Activator and the Sega Interactor, you basically were the coolest, dumbest kid ever. If you had those two things.
Yeah. Your parents were
no, my friend actually had
expensive back in the day.
For Christmas one year got the Sega Activator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I remember sitting in his house with him and being like, just not being able to get it to work, in any kind of reliable way. And we were like, it's broken, and I think we actually ended up taking it back. Yeah, because it just didn't work.
Man, I think it just didn't work.
Well, but it was weird because you'd have to program like this part of it is A button, this part of it is B button.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
And if you can imagine trying to pull off special moves in Mortal Kombat, just by crossing your arm over some invisible barrier.
We had the Genesis, but I think after getting the Power Glove with the NES, we just gave up on that kind of motion activated controlling.
I was always a sucker for like peripherals like that. Those gimmicky things like the iToy on PlayStation 2. Like I was a sucker for that thing when it first came out. I always buy those Kinect for the 360. I was first on board with that thing.
Yeah,
it wasn't that bad.
There has been a good number of really gimmicky, weird
stuff for
weird
every
things.
console.
Yeah, for every console.
Keep trying.
But,
keep trying.
Listen, people talk about that stuff like it's sort of synonymous with Nintendo, but everybody sort of did it to some extent.
Some of them catch on fire though. I mean, like the Kinect, everybody wants to hate on it, but when that thing first came out, it sold really well. I mean, that thing sold really well when it first came out.
You'd see little kids and stuff all running around the living room.
Yeah.
What was it? The Kinect Adventures?
Yeah, Kinect Adventures.
Mm-hmm. You'd be like turning side to side, trying to catch the rings and stuff. Yeah. But I remember thinking, oh boy, that looks bad.
Yeah. I was on the opposite. I was like, oh boy, that looks fun.
Well, but the thing about the Kinect, there was some scare with the Kinect because it was like
somebody could watch.
Well, because the cameras on it are always on.
Yeah,
because Microsoft released something saying, well, it's always on because it's voice activated or whatever. Mm-hmm. And people are like, so does that mean that Bill Gates is going to watch me in my underwear?
Don't worry, I don't think Bill Gates cares that much.
So then there was this paranoia.
Yeah.
That I actually think it was Batman. If you haven't you ever seen The Dark Knight? On the cell phones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Wayne Enterprises. Is using it to spy on criminals.
What else did you pick up there? I know you got something. What was your other heavy hitter down there?
Oh geez, honestly, it's late, and I'm having trouble remembering. But
when Benjamin comes back, he'll tell you about what he got. Also, I'm pretty lame. I really just picked up one game and that was it. So
yeah, I got some fighters. I got like Guilty Gear.
Yeah, you got some really good stuff.
I got Titanfall 2. I'm trying to remember what else. I got those 2 Switch games.
Yeah.
I got a game for PS2 called Gun Club.
Uh-huh.
And the only reason I got it is because it said
endorsed by
the NRA on the side.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, some NRA propaganda in a video game. I gotta have me this. So I got that, and it's literally an NRA backed gun game. Yeah. So I was like, I never had seen it before, and I was like, that's just too weird not to buy. So this is how I video game shop. I'll pass the good games and buy the stuff that's just like
it's the weirdest.
Yeah, that's just super weird.
Yeah, next year I'm definitely going down there.
Yeah, you got to, man.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. I mean, even aside from picking up games and stuff.
Yeah, it was just cool to be able to, like, we talked about video games on the way down and stuff like that. That was really awesome. And then we actually stopped by a few other stores.
Yeah, we stopped on a couple places on the way back. We stopped at Vintage Stock, and I got Growl Lancer for PS2, the big box.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the last working Designs games I don't have.
Yeah, that thing's super cool.
And then I got Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for PS3. I got an APV TV game console, which is one of those pre-Atari kind of Pong clone kind of thing.
Okay,
so it's so it's like a wood grain, piece of garbage kind of thing. But I've got several of those.
Yeah,
and
but
I kind of like them.
Those are cool to have.
So I got that. I got a Etrian Odyssey for DS or for 3DS.
I wish I could remember the game I got. Ben, we ended up doing a pile together. Me and Ben bought some stuff and sort of piled it together and say, hey, can we do a bundle deal? But I totally forgot. Benjamin took the games and didn't give it my game back. So
there was one game that you got. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was one game that you got that I wanted.
Oh, yeah. It was a compilation on the Xbox.
Yeah, it was like a Street Fighter anthology or something like that.
It looked really cool. That's what I ended up getting. So.
Yeah, jerk.
Gotcha. My 2 games.
Just because you saw it sooner than me, but yeah, we had a really good time. So that was a good day.
Yeah,
just to go out and
it was really nice
and hang out. And we ate some Jimmy John's sandwiches,
and
then we came back. But that was a really good day. All right, do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for the Handheld Holla! All right, so I'll go first.
You go first.
I'll go first.
Do it.
So I've been messing around with the Neo Geo Pocket Color a lot here lately. So mine, I've already kind of alluded to this. I posted about it on Facebook and so forth, but mine's going to be Sonic Pocket.
Sonic Pocket.
Ooh. Yeah, for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Super good game. It plays every bit as good as like Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 on the Genesis.
Really?
It is the definitive.
Boy, that's a
handheld
heavy words right there.
Sonic game.
Really?
The definitive game.
All right.
Not even on a Sega handheld.
Man.
And the Switch doesn't count.
Okay.
So this doesn't count Sonic Mania, which is a better game. But no, it's really, really good. Plays super well. It's exactly the right pace for the size of screen and everything. It is a very solid game. Okay. So I would highly recommend it if you have a Neo Geo Pocket Color. And if you don't have a Neo Geo Pocket Color, why not?
Get it.
Yeah, you need to get it. All right, Shane?
I played Super Dodgeball Advance on the Game Boy Advance. I wish I could just talk it up a bunch, but it's pretty much, if you ever played Dodgeball on the NES, it's pretty much like that, but it has more power-ups, really cool graphics and stuff.
But Dodgeball's a fun game, though.
No, it's super fun, man. Yeah. I mean, it's a cheap game. I think you can pick it up for like $5. I'm telling you guys, pick it up. Super fun, especially if you like the Dodgeball and the NES. It's like that, just more power-ups and stuff. So, what do you got, Michael?
I actually recently played Mega Man Extreme 2 on Game Boy Color.
Extreme!
It was very extreme. It's actually also pretty similar to most of the other Mega Man games. I played it through the Game Boy Player on my GameCube.
Yeah, nice.
I like to play some of those handhelds on my TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of similar. Go through the bosses.
Are they Mavericks or bosses in this one?
Well, I don't know. I think
I'm not sure where they made the division between those. I guess it's the X series. The Mavericks.
Okay. Yeah, Mavericks. I still always call them bosses. Yeah. The end guy. Yeah.
And boss.
But yeah, you take their powers and go
through
the rest of the game.
You do the Mega Man stuff.
Yep. But it's relatively inexpensive. I think it's like $15. So for a Mega Man game, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Sweet. Can't go wrong with a Mega Man game.
You can never go wrong with Mega Man game, except for it's super hard.
Yep.
Except for Mega Man Soccer or
I guess there is some bad.
There are a couple. Honestly, I never had played any of the Mega Man like Network Transmission Battle.
I never played
Battle. They start getting weird with them.
Yeah,
like
just card games.
The card games too.
It's like nobody wants to play a Mega Man card game. Nobody wants to play a Metal Gear Solid card game. Yeah. Like what is wrong with you, Japan?
Yeah, no, this one's kind of sticks to the original formula.
Has to be a card
Not everything has to be a card game, Japan.
Yeah.
Stop it.
But yeah, this one does stick to the original formula, which is nice.
Nice. All right.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Sweet.
So because it's been a little bit of time since our last, and we've also had a major holiday, Christmas.
Yep.
Where we got some stuff.
Yep.
We thought we'd talk about some stuff.
Yep.
I mean, we kind of talked about stuff already, but why not talk about more stuff?
Yeah.
New stuff we got.
Yeah. So recent pickups.
Yeah. What we've been collecting, picking up and stuff.
Yeah. Especially with all the pre-Christmas garbage.
Who wants to start this off? Who's going?
I can talk a little bit about mine, I suppose.
Okay. Do it to it.
So I've had a burning rage inside of me for the
oh boy
for the last few months. I I love the Neo Geo.
Yeah.
I can't overstate how much I like the Neo Geo.
Yeah, it's
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So they're super cool. So I've talked about this on the podcast in the past. I have a consoleized MVS machine called the Omega. The
Yeah.
Neo Geo Omega.
Awesome machine. Yes.
And I also but for Christmas, I spent all of my goodwill. And I got a Neo Geo AES, which is the home console version.
You just want to torture yourself.
Because I like games that are way too expensive.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and I went to this game store and they had a boxed AES console, and it was really expensive.
Yeah.
But it was before Christmas, so I was really like, I really, really want this kind of thing. But the system in it was looked like it had been dropped and had been cracked down the front of it. But it's in the box. The box is in really good shape. So I'm like, but they wouldn't come down on the price on it at all. So I was like, no, I'm not buying a cracked console for full price, kind of thing.
No way.
And so I didn't quite come to an agreement on that, but I bought all of the games that they had. So they had a stack of about a dozen AES games. Yeah. None real high end, no Neo Turf Masters or anything like that. But King of Fighters 94, King of Fighters 98.
Still fun. Good games.
Yeah. Real Bout, Fatal Fury Special. I'm trying to remember what all was in there. Top Player Golf.
Baseball.
Baseball Stars.
Yeah, Baseball Stars.
So there was a good chunk of games.
Yeah.
In there, and so now I have the AES, and so I'm thrilled to have one of those. So now I've got a CD, I've got the MVS, and I have the AES.
So you're not missing anything.
So I'm not and
it's got it all.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Well,
the
only other thing is the Neo Geo X.
Oh, okay.
The sort of aftermarket, emulation machine that SNK released. And I've got it.
You got that too.
Yeah, I've got it too.
So you're set.
So now I
saw that.
Yeah, I thought I did. I was like, I'm scratching my head here.
So now I have the second and third model Neo Geo CD, the MVS and the AES and the X.
Nice.
So the only piece of Neo Geo hardware that I don't have is the first model of the Neo Geo CD that was only released in Japan. The one with the one that spits the tray out the front. Man. I don't have that.
I'll forgive you.
Yeah,
we'll forgive you.
So my Neo Geo shenanigans are nearly complete. The problem is the games are so darn expensive.
Yeah, that's the only problem with that system.
But
they're so expensive.
But so I got a handful of games. I don't got a handful of CD games. I just try to pick them up when I find them cheapish.
Yeah.
Now, granted that you don't come across them ever.
Yeah. That's the hard thing with that. If you do see them, you just don't want to buy them because it's like, where else are you going to get them except for eBay, or whatever you call it.
And then I have a Neo Geo Pocket and I've been playing on it for a while.
Yeah.
And I picked up a couple of games for Christmas for the Neo Geo Pocket.
Yeah.
Sonic, and then Metal Slug First Mission,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually not as good as Metal Slug Second Mission, I hear, but it's still pretty darn good for
it's a little harder to throw your bomb on the first one.
Yeah, you have to hit the option button.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because it's the Neo Geo Pocket Color is essentially just like the Game Boy Advance.
I guess it's your grenade, I should say.
Yeah, grenade.
2 buttons. That's
it,
right?
Yeah, 2 buttons. Okay. So in the course the Neo Geo, the standard Neo Geo has 4.
Okay.
So they got to figure out how to map all that stuff. But yeah, so I've been kind of rocking out. Here this last month or so, I've played Neo Geo darn near exclusively.
Yeah.
And I won't claim to be very good at a lot of the fighting games, but I'm slowly getting mediocre at them.
Yeah.
but
not join the circuit anytime soon.
But I've got King of Fighters 98 soundtrack going through my head pretty much 24/7 anymore.
Nice.
And even to the point that and this is my wife, God bless her. She I don't know how she puts up with it, but I even have the King of Fighters 98 soundtrack. I downloaded it on iTunes on my phone. We'll be driving down the road, and she'll be listening to the radio, and then I'll Bluetooth my phone to it and sneak in some King of Fighters soundtrack. She's like, "You're horrible."
You better watch out. She's gonna put a fighting champ move on you and do a karate chop across your neck.
But yeah, I can't get enough of King of Fighters. I love that stuff. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. I've been playing a lot of Metal Slug X as well, which is another one of the MVS games I got from that store. But yeah, so Neo Geo all day, every day. There were a few pre-Christmas kind of sales and things that they had. I was able to pick up the Wolfenstein 2, the New Colossus.
Yeah.
For $25. They had it for like $25 for a solid week on Amazon and Best Buy. So I thought, well, for $25, why not? And then I also got, and I would recommend this to all of our listeners too, is the Okami HD for PS4.
Okay.
Oh. So I initially took like a picture or two of like the PS2 version of Okami, which I started playing a little bit before it came out because I was kind of excited about it, and I put it on Facebook. But then I've been playing a fair bit of Okami HD on PS4, and I intend to actually play all the way through to the end of it. And for those that don't know, I've actually finally got myself some game capture hardware and stuff, and so I put a few, mostly at least here up front, just to try to figure out how all the hardware works and be able to see if I can do it. Yeah. But I have put some gameplay video of me playing Okami and a couple of other games on.
So watch out for that. Yeah, we're gonna
on YouTube. So yeah, I'm gonna start putting little streams or just little tidbits of me playing different stuff.
I saw a little bit of, was it Soul Blazer?
You're talking about
you're playing on TurboGrafx actually.
You're talking about.
I keep wanting to say Aero
Blasters, Blazing Lasers.
Blazing Lasers. That's I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was
every time I want to say Blazing Lasers, I want to say Aero Blasters instead, but it's a different game. But I did put the first level of me playing Blazing Lasers.
Yeah, we're sort of testing through some stuff, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later on.
Yeah, and I put I actually put a playthrough of Nex Machina. Or Machina, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, a PS4 game.
I'll go with that.
Which is a house marquee game, and the physical release was a limited run release, but I love that game. I cannot play enough of that game. Nice. Every day when I come home from work, I want to play that game. And it's just this like super arcadey like update of Robotron, and if anybody's ever played Resogun on PS3 or PS4, it's made by House Marquee, the same people that made Resogun, and it actually, even though it's not the same kind of game as Resogun, it feels a lot the same. So it's just a really good shooter. Like if you like really arcadey, throwback games, but it's super fast paced and it's super hard. It's a really really hard game, punishingly difficult, but it's really really fun.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So. Anywho, that's me.
Okay. Michael, what you got? What have you been doing?
I've had a few pickups. I mean, most recently, Adam actually just gave me Battlefield 1 in a kind of a trade that we did.
Nice.
So I was pretty excited to get that, as I was a huge fan of like the Medal of Honor games, and I hear it's a kind of a updated version for PS4, kind of a. Yeah, have you played it all, Adam?
I haven't played it one bit. I know it looks super cool. So
it looks good.
So here's. My gamer card probably needs to go away at some point, but like I won't play that game, or I haven't played that game because so much of it's online.
Yeah, that's true.
I will not play games online.
Just online.
I shouldn't say that. I will play games online with people that I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do not play games online with people I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't enjoy it. It's like weird and uncomfortable.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But it's and I know that makes me like the old man or whatever. But
I go through fits of that too. Also.
But yeah, it's a game that I'm sure I would enjoy. It looks super awesome, but I'm just like, nah, it's online.
Yeah.
Which is usually the big selling point for games, except when you're an old crotchety, guy like me, and then I'm like, man,
I want my single player.
Yeah, no, I don't want to interact with people.
Maybe couch co-op.
I don't want some kid yelling at me or whatever. Which I've done a little bit of online gaming in the past with like Borderlands and stuff, but it's always the same deal, or Call of Duty or whatever. Yeah. You're always on there, and then some kid shows up, and then it gets uncomfortable for me, and I'm just like, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
and
but it's always hard to find a buddy to play.
But don't mean to knock Battlefield 1.
No, that's fine. I just want to check it out.
It looks super awesome. I mean, it really does. I remember looking at the previews of it and thinking, man, that looks really, really good. But yeah, it's even though I want to play it, I won't play it.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm glad you were able to give it to me, and then so I get some use out of it.
Somebody appreciate it.
Yeah. Another thing I picked up, actually I got a power base converter for my Genesis.
Ooh.
Because I'm kind of tired of pulling out my Master System every time, because I don't have a lot of shelf space for all my systems. So this will kind of help me out if I want to play my Master System games kind of in a jiff.
Stack it right up there.
Just throw it right there on my CDX.
And no extra power cord for that thing too.
So does it fit on a CDX?
It does. It says it's not supposed to work, but it does work. So there you go.
I did not know that. Yeah, because it's for those that don't know, the power converter like you're saying, allows you to play Master System
it's like a
games
Master System.
on the Jenny.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even fit the Model 2, does it?
It just fits weird. Yeah.
Or you have to take a tab out or something. Like that.
Yeah. There's like a spacer or something on
there.
there.
Yeah, because it's really designed to fit the Model 1. I mean,
exactly.
It fits it perfect for Model 1.
It looks funny on mine, but it works on the CDX. So
yeah, so really the only ways to play Master System games without having a Master System is your power base converter, like you're talking about, or a Retron 5.
Yeah, where they just came out with
with the added Master System adapter.
Yeah.
So if anybody out there wants to play Master System games but doesn't have a Master System, that's really the
Doesn't the same one also do Game Gear games though?
It does. It does.
Which is kind of cool.
It does the Master System card games. It does the Master System cartridge games, and then it also does the Game Gear games. But that's because a Game Gear is basically a handheld Master System. It's basically the exact same system. So
sure.
Or at least as I understand it. I don't guess I know that for a fact. I've heard people say that.
Yeah, that's what I heard that too. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, so I was excited to pick that up.
That's a cool pickup.
Yeah. And then I was also able to pick up some NES games recently, like the Bases Loaded 4, which is kind of tough to find.
I don't have Bases Loaded 4.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So if you don't know, the Bases Loaded series is kind of a cool series because you can kind of play a whole season through it. Kind of like franchise mode now, but back in the 80s that wasn't a very it was kind of a new thing. It was definitely a new thing. You play one game and be done.
I don't understand why 4 is so much rarer than 1, 2, and 3.
I think it just came out later.
I
think it was just a late release date.
Because I mean, you cannot buy a stack of like 5 NES games without getting Bases Loaded 1, 2, or 3.
I saw it, and that was the only time I'd seen it.
Never see 4.
Yeah, 5-6 years I'd seen it this first time.
You know what's the most annoying thing about Bases Loaded though?
What's that?
It doesn't say the end label.
Oh yeah,
it says Jaleco on it. It does not say. It does not have the name of the game.
Oh, that is annoying.
That is true.
It's super annoying.
It's very annoying.
Yeah. So if you see an NES game and you can only see the end label and it's white and it says Jaleco on it, it's Bases Loaded.
Mine literally I just have 4 Jaleco labels next to each other. So that's the giveaway.
That's
right
a good
there.
pickup though, and they're good games.
Yep. And then I also picked up a couple kind of lesser common games like kind of a little bit rare title that I got. The sequel to a pretty popular game, but the sequel not too many people had, and that was RC Pro-Am 2.
RC Pro-Am 2. That is a rare game published by Trade West, I believe.
Yep,
that's right.
I made the stupid mistake when I first started collecting. I had label damage on mine. It was just the top was peeling, and I was like, I'll find that again. It's rare, but I'll find it again. I want one without label damage, and I ended up selling it. And at that time, it was only at like $30, $25, and I sold it off. And I regret it every day. I think about that one all the time.
So RC Pro-Am, the first one, really good game.
Yeah.
But after you get to, so for those that don't know, it's like it's an isometric racing game.
Yeah, kind of 4 cars.
Yeah, 4 cars. You can kind of you earn money, and then you kind of buy new stuff. You buy new tires, buy new motor, or whatever.
Yeah, the squealing of the tires.
But the reason it's called RC is because it's you're racing remote control cars, right? So RC Pro-Am, the first one, is a really fun, really good game.
Yeah.
But and you guys tell me if you're better at it than me. But after I get to I think there's 25 levels in it or something. It is impossible past level 10
it gets
or 12.
extremely difficult.
It is so
I hit
hard.
A wall at, I can't remember what stage, but I hit
it's
a
around
area
12,
and it's just
I think.
boom.
Yeah,
and then I'm pretty much done. And then I get my fill of it and I put it away.
I mean, it's just impossible. And even if you're ahead, somehow the computer will stay up with you. And but the fun thing about RC Pro-Am, though, is that because it is... So the screen scrolls around and it's an overhead view. But if you're playing 2-player, the person who's in second, if they're too far behind, the screen will just drag them along with with it. So it'll keep you from completely smoking your opponent.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'll be playing with somebody who you're a lot better than or whatever. But they'll still beat you. Yeah, they'll still beat you because you'll hit the oil slick or something right at the end of the game, and then they'll
just like
they'll
they always had that little horn too.
Yep.
But what I'm getting at is RC Pro-Am 2 is every bit as fun, except it's better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the curve, the difficulty curve. Is that the word I'm looking for?
ramps up.
Yeah, it's so much better than RC Program 1.
Yeah.
That looks a little bit better. Have you played it yet?
I played it once, just to see if it worked. So I played it for like 30 minutes. But it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. RC Program's great. I love isometric racers, just in general. So this is in the same vein of like, so there's RC Program, there's your off-road games.
Yep.
Trying to think for Neo Geo, Neo Drift Out.
Yeah.
It's which actually is an awesome game. It's kind of like that too. But
Micro Machines.
Yeah, there's a Micro Machines game that's like
similar.
that.
It's an unlicensed one.
What's that?
What is it? Is Biker Mice from Mars? It's kind of an isometric overhead thing
that's
too, isn't it?
There's one on Atari Jag that looks really good. Power Drift, I think it's called. That one looks really good.
Yeah, but I love all those games.
Yeah, I like those. They show up.
And I think maybe Off-Road was kind of
Off-Road in the arcade was
my
game.
Spinning that wheel.
The three
wheels.
Oh, man.
You could be red, blue, or yellow.
Oh, yeah. The ice skating rinks, that's all I used to do. I didn't...
You had your
skate.
I didn't skate. Couple skate. What's that?
Yeah. My couple skating was holding onto the wall because I was so horrible at it. Jeez.
Well, every station had its own little pedal. You had your little metal pedal, and they had the
nitro boost.
It had the nitro boost,
and
then
tap the heck out of it.
And then each one of the steering wheels, like the steering wheels didn't have a stop on them.
No, no.
You know, it's like later games. You know, you turn them so far they'll stop. But Super Off-Road or Off-Road in the arcade, you just grab the wheel and you just fling that.
It was so awesome.
Yeah, you could turn it.
That, man.
You could turn it 800 times, to one side or whatever,
and just crank it, and then you stop it and then sort of turn a little bit, and then you're right back going. It's so awesome, man.
But yeah, so RC Program's kind of the same kind of thing, but super good game. Anything else?
Just a fewer less common games, or more common games, I should say. Magic Darts for NES, which I have not played. But
that's a ROM Star game.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's just
is that the one with the
sounds.
dartboard on the front?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's got a purple cover with a dartboard.
I'm guessing it's not too great, but just some stuff I didn't have. And then I think another one pretty common is Hatris, actually, which is kind of like a Tetris game, but with hats.
It's a Tetris game for old English people.
Yeah, and that's all that needs to be said about that. But just some stuff I didn't have because I am kind of going for a complete collection. I don't know how long it's going to take me, but
moving slow on
it. Just moving slow.
It's the way to do it, man.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I don't think I've bought an NES game now in like 5 months.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine's just so off the wall. I don't even know what I collect. If it's cheap, I don't even know. Is that everything you got?
Yeah, I think that's about it from recent pickups.
My recent pickups, I got some really good Sega CD stuff. I did a trade with an older guy I met through Craigslist. I ended up picking up like about 35 Sega CD games.
Wow,
I traded
nice.
I did trade off of like a game that it wasn't a double. A lot of it was doubles, but I got rid of Secret of Mana. I just wasn't playing it.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to say something controversial here.
What?
I don't really like Secret of Mana that much.
I popped it in. I mean, I could play it on.
It's all right.
Yeah, I could play
but it is not the game that everybody talks about. I mean, maybe it is for some people. I don't dislike the game, but I can think of a lot of games on the Super Nintendo I would way rather play.
That's where I'm. That's what I've been sort of at with my collecting. Is like I'm starting to get rid of stuff that I know I'm never going to play. So I've been trading off stuff and getting some really good stuff. Like, what did I get here? The Amazing Spider-Man on Sega CD. I think that looks cool. I might play that. Road Rash looks awesome.
No,
I got that.
That's good.
You can't ever go wrong with Road Rash.
Yeah, Road Rash is good.
I think I have every
CD.
version of Road Rash right now. I even have the 3DO version. I have all the versions. So, I think
actually the 3DO version is the definitive version.
Yeah. No, that looks. It's really fun. I actually got Night Trap, but it's loose, so I'm looking for the box for it. I'm really excited. I got a Final Fight CD.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that looks really good. So it's loose, but I'm gonna play the heck out of it when I get a chance.
Yeah, a lot of those Genesis games that they switched over to the Sega CD. It's just better audio.
Yeah, better audio, so it takes it to another level. Yeah,
and it doesn't sound like a lot of other Genesis games where there's it sounds like a speaker inside of a Cocoa box.
Yeah,
just a little tinny. Yeah.
But then I also picked up. I found a deal on Craigslist, and that I found an Atari 5200 with 8 games for $50, but all in box.
It's a great deal.
And the system in box too. controllers don't work because they never work. But the box is in the system.
5200 box?
Yeah, 5200 box.
Wow,
just
man.
Massive.
Yeah, if you ever find yourself homeless, you could live in it.
I could live in that thing. Yeah, you're right. And then it even had the system cover, so I could tarp up in that thing too. And then I found an Xbox on Facebook. I've had a little bit of time here to be on the internet every once in a while because everybody's been sick, just laying around pretty much just. So I found an original Xbox in box with 20 games for $15.
Wow.
I picked that up. I was like, to go with that. And then I found Job Simulator at GameStop. And surprisingly, I don't know why, but the game's going for like $70, $80. And I actually popped the game in and played it with my nephew and nieces and stuff. So fun, man.
It's a pretty good game.
I think it's really fun. Yeah. It's just quirky. It's throwing around donuts, eating donuts. And just
I was hesitant at first before you told me about it, but just from the title, Job Simulator.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't sound fun at all.
You could pick up donuts and throw them in your mouth, and you're throwing up.
The
and
crazy
stuff.
thing
It's
about
funny.
that game is and Shane sent me this, and they're like on eBay and stuff. It's going for like $80 or $90 sometimes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I was like, that is nuts because I actually had it. I played the demo of it on the PSVR demo disc, and I actually still have it. Have not opened it. It's still in the wrapper.
Nice.
I got my copy, I think, for $12.
Yeah,
or something like that. Brand new.
They're selling it for new there at GameStop for $20 and selling it used for like $26 or something.
Well, but after PSVR had been out for I don't know the first year or something, like a lot of the games that were just holdovers or they just wanted to clear out the old stock.
Yep.
I bought, but like literally, I think I bought it for like $12.
Yeah,
and you sent me that thing and. Because I just bought it a couple months ago, and you sent me that thing saying it was $80 or whatever, and I was like,
I had to get rid of that.
yeah, I was
gonna sell mine, but then I actually played it and thought it was really fun, so I'm just gonna keep it.
It's got a good sense of humor about it, I think.
And then I picked up GameStop. I had a reward certificate for like $30, and you're not supposed to be able to use that on like digital games, but they had the box for PUBG because I have an Xbox One. And so I picked it up just to try it out because everybody always talking about PUBG. So I figured try it out. But she used my coupon code but didn't use my coupon, so I ended up spending like $5 on PUBG and used my coupon.
Have you
for
played
another
it yet?
game.
PUBG?
Yeah, I played it. It's
like
I do enjoy it, but it's very, very glitchy right now. It's the frame rate drops a lot and everything. So if they update it, it's going to be good. If they update it, it's going to be. I think it'll be really good. It handles well. I mean, it's fun. Me and my nephew were playing it and goofing around on it, so it was cool. So I'd suggest getting it. But that's about it. All I picked up and played. So I haven't had much time to play. Oh, and I played Duck Game on PS4.
Game,
man,
yeah.
It's so fun. You guys played that before? Oh man,
I've seen a video.
I was thinking about downloading it on Steam.
Oh man, you got to. It's so fun.
So I've kind of while I was sick, until I got the goopy pink eye.
Yeah.
I was playing some games on my laptop. And I actually had a sort of a PC gaming revival. Revival. I was dancing around in front of the couch playing some PC games. But I played. I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through Half-Life 2.
So
I started playing back through it, and
brings me back to college.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, like,
Max Payne, Half-Life.
Half-Life 2 just runs so good on like every computer you put it on. But so I played a good way through Half-Life 2. I started playing Portal again.
Nice.
Which is I played through Portal so many times it's stupid. But so I started playing it again, and I actually I've not played this game since like high school. But StarCraft. I got out StarCraft and started playing it, and so I've been mining some minerals.
Yeah,
I've been shooting some zerglings. And I played a game earlier today, actually, before you guys got here, and I think it took me like 4 hours, or something to beat the level. So I think I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to put it down.
Those old ones can get addictive.
I'm telling you, all those old Blizzard games like that. But yeah, so I was sick. I was like, well, I'm sick and I can't do anything else. I'm going to play me some Half-Life, shoot me some head crabs, and then I'm gonna play some Portal, and I'm gonna destroy some zerglings here.
Sounds like you had a good day.
Yeah. Well, aside
Your
from
sick
being,
days sound way better than mine.
aside from being ill, I did get a lot of gaming done. My poor wife, I'm like, I'm like, on the couch, like, just sick as a dog, not helping with the kid at all. But I had just enough.
Click button.
Yeah, I had just enough that I could work a mouse and 4 buttons on the keyboard.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was kind of proud of myself. I haven't played PC in a long time.
Yeah,
but
man, I never was a PC person, so I never gone down that road, man. Downloading stuff and doing stuff like that.
There's, the thing is, the indie scene is so good on the PC right now.
That does look appealing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I there's another indie game called Jamestown. It's a vertical scrolling shooter.
Yeah,
super good game. It's also on PS4.
Is it?
Okay.
Yeah, and I liked it so well on the PC because on the PC. I'll sell something like $5.
Yeah.
So I actually bought it on PS4. I liked it on
some
PC
of those games
so
on
much.
PC are just so cheap, man. It's like
because you get on Steam, and that's how they get you.
Yep.
Is everything's so darn cheap on there. They put stuff on sale, and you're like, well, it's only $4. It's like making money.
Yeah.
I gotta download this.
I'll play that eventually.
Yeah.
Even though you got
Blockbuster rental.
stuff.
Yeah, there's starving people in the world. I gotta buy this $4 game. But yeah, Steam is addictive, bad. But so because I was screwing around on Steam so much a week and a half ago or whatever it was when I was sick, I actually ordered the Steam controller.
Yeah, nice.
I'll let you mess with it later on. That is a weird controller.
Is it weird?
It is super weird.
Sort of pressure sensitive.
Yeah, it was really cheap. I think it was only like $10 or something like that. But because I got on there and they were like, for the Steam Link and the Steam controller, it was like $20 or something.
I had a Steam Link for a little bit, and it just wouldn't run through my PC right. So I got the Steam Link primarily so I could, if I want to stream anything off PC, it'll just make it that much easier. But at least through the channels I have set up for. Yeah. I don't want to get into it because I don't understand half of it. But for the rest of the stuff that I have set up over here. Yeah.
But in any respect, it is a weird controller.
Yeah.
So I really honestly need to just get an Xbox One controller to play on my PC. But
yeah, because you could buy the dongle for the Xbox
dongle.
Dongle.
But yeah, I actually have like one of those USB Super Nintendo mock-up controllers, and so all the side scrollers that I play on the PC, I use that. I've been playing Curse Castilla or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
The one that's the Ghost of Goblins clone, kind of. Yeah. I've been playing that and SteamWorld Dig 2.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
I never played any of those yet.
But they're good. I mean, my kiddo sits next to me and we play those together a little bit. And he likes them.
Nice.
So, but that's basically all.
Basically, is that all we got, boys?
Well, like I said, I got more gaming done this last month than I have in a long time. But that's because I was laid up on the couch.
Helped me. Yeah.
Well, I was, the worst part about it was I was sick over the Christmas holidays. Yeah. So I had a 3-day weekend that weekend, and I got sick Friday. I got sick Friday, and I laid on the couch till Tuesday. Yep. Christmas was kind of a bust in my house. But it actually makes 2 Christmases in a row where I've been like really sick. Yeah. But I usually never get sick until I had a child.
Yeah.
And they just, dude, man. I don't know what it is, man, but he like gets everything.
Yeah.
And he just brings it right back. And it's just like, if he gets sick, it's a guarantee that I'm going to get sick. And it just goes through the house like a wildfire.
Yeah. My kid goes to daycare. So, that's
what I'm saying, man. They're just little vectors of disease. It's everything they touch.
Yeah.
But, and I even know when I got inoculated because I was like holding him. And he like tells me something, and he like sneezes, and I feel it hit the back of my throat, No. And I'm like, yep, there it is, And sure enough, like 48 hours later, you're sick, And it's like, well, thanks, dude.
Yeah,
because they don't know hygiene so good.
Yeah, in my house, I was the first one to get sick, and I toughed it out like a champ, and just sort of barreled through and took care of everybody, and wasn't trying to spread it. But then it just hit like a wildfire in my house, and everybody just got sick and got like Deacon and got croup, and oh man, it just spread like no other.
Everybody who's been listening to the podcast, this is the portion where I want to introduce Brett Weiss, who's an author of several video game related books and a historian in some ways of our quote unquote culture. He's written many books and actually has a book due to come out on the Super Nintendo here pretty soon. So I just want to introduce you to Brett Weiss. He's a good fella. Met him at Super BitCon this last year, and he's made his rounds at several video game conventions, and is a fairly well known person in the community. And I would recommend that anybody pick up any of his things because any aficionado or any hobbyist like myself or anybody that's interested at all in preserving the things that we do. Brett's the kind of guy that does that sort of stuff. So without further ado, I just want to let Brett kind of talk for himself, and maybe you can talk some about your books or current projects or whatever you want to talk about, Brett.
Okay, well, thanks for that introduction. It's very kind. And yeah, it was good meeting you at the now late lamented Super BitCon. That was, I believe, was that the one with the storm, or was it the year
that
before
was
that?
The one that was canceled the tornado hit it, canceled the first day.
Yeah.
We had a good second day, but subsequently has kind of destroyed that convention altogether. It is no more.
That was part of it. That's part of the reason why. For people that don't know, Super BitCon was an annual convention in Oklahoma City, and it was on the fair in this big building at the fairgrounds, and it was a great show every year, tons of fun. But like you said, a tornado ripped through, killed Saturday. Sunday had an amazing turnout, all things considered. But that combined with the organizers, just having other obligations, they decided just to stop the show. But anyway, my name is Brett Weiss, and I have a website at brettweisswords.com, and that's where all my books are. You can find links to all of them. And like I said, I do write books about video games. I write articles for a bunch of different magazines and newspapers about a variety of topics, not just video games, comics, movies, all the pop culture stuff.
Sure.
Plus, just about anything people will pay me to write for. I write for the local newspaper here in Fort Worth, Texas, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I write for Antique Week, a weekly national newspaper. I've got a column in there called the Pop Culture Collective. Plus, I do cover features and stuff. Write for Film Facts, Fangoria, just on and on and on. So writing is what I do full time. Been doing that full time for about 8 years now, and just this year was the 20th anniversary of the first time I got paid to write something. That was for a short story for an online science fiction magazine, and they paid me a whopping sum of $10.
Well, congratulations on your milestone. 20 years is something.
Yeah, and that was 1997. That short story. Well, the next year I started writing for this website called the All Game Guide, and that was part of a larger conglomerate with the All Music Guide, the All Media Guide, and All Music, All Movie, and the gaming division. For several years, in the late 90s, me and several other people that you may have heard of in the industry, Chris Kavanaugh, Chris Baker, Earl Green, Michael Thomas, and some others, we were all writing for this website, and that was, almost 20 years ago, and the next few years after that, and we were writing about retro gaming before it was cool to write about retro gaming. This particular website, the All Game Guide, which went under just a few years ago, their mission was to cover every single game for every single computer and every single console. So I was writing, descriptions of Atari ST games, reviews for the Odyssey 2, Bally Astrocade, Arcadia 2001, Adventure Vision, Atari 2600, everything and anything from all eras.
Sure.
So it was a great gig. I don't know how they were. I don't know the full business of how they were funding stuff, but I know they would use those write-ups, like Blockbuster and other places would use those write-ups for their customers, and that was just a great gig. I wrote full time. I was able to quit my job at Walden Books and write and be an editor for the All Game Guide for several years there until that fizzled out. So that sort of springboarded. As soon as that went away, that sort of springboarded my classic home video game series, which I took it upon myself to just do write-ups for every classic console.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I got introduced to you, was specifically through a lot of your write-ups having to do with sort of the Atari 2600 era. My initial area, or the era that introduced me to gaming, even though I was quite young when all that stuff was out. But aside from video games, I know that you're kind of a KISS aficionado, from what I understand.
Yeah, big KISS fan. When I was, in the mid '70s, KISS and the Atari 20. So the Atari 2600 came out in 1977. That, in 1977 and '78, KISS were at the very top of their game, and I was 10, 11 years old, so. That just hit me at the perfect time. At the time you would ask me, what do you like better, Atari or KISS? It'd be a toss-up. And, just so those great albums, and I had my room was just plastered with Kiss posters all over the place, and I didn't have a lot of money, but I had enough to buy the albums and the magazines. I would be devouring, just like I would devour Electronic Games magazine and Joystick and Electronic Fun with computers and games and all that. I was devouring Hit Parader, 16, Circus, Cream, all the magazines that had Kiss articles in them, at the same time. So it all went together.
Yeah, and Kiss was a little bit before my time, but I actually have like a complete collection of Kiss trading cards. Do you ever see these, Brett?
I do, yeah. My friend and I would ride our bikes to the store, and they were put out by Donruss, the baseball card company, and we would ride our bikes to the store, and buy packs of cards, and we would get money by finding bottles. Back in the day, you could pick up cans and bottles and stuff and turn them in for money, and we would use that to buy Kiss cards and Orange Crush and candy bar and all that kind of stuff. It was
always the mission. When you flip those cards over, they make like a poster or a big picture when you flip the cards over. So there's always a mission to try to fill in the little holes that you were missing in those. I remember those quite well. My uncle was big time into that stuff, and most of what I have with regards to that, I sort of inherited from him. But back to gaming, if it's okay, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions just to kind of gauge you a little bit. So you're kind of an original gangster when it comes to gaming. You've been around for a little while. I don't want to date you. You already dated yourself a little bit, I suppose.
Oh, I did. I turned 50 this year, and that's a little bit depressing, but it's also a badge of honor because it beats the alternative.
It does beat the alternative. That's true. But
and one thing good about being this age is I grew up, in the video craze. I mean, when I was in the mid 70s, we went over to my cousin's house, and they had gotten a Pong system for their TV. They had a little black and white TV in their bedroom, and we went there right after Christmas, and they were playing Pong. I'm like, holy cow, they've got an arcade in their house. I mean, back then that was just mind-blowing. I didn't know about the original Odyssey that came out in 1972 back then because nobody I knew had one. But in the mid-70s, some friends started getting Pong systems in my cousins. And then in 76, my two very best friends in the neighborhood each got a Fairchild Channel F, which was the first fully programmable game console. And so that blew my mind as well, and I loved it too. And then, it picked up 77, 78. Friends at school started getting an Atari 2600, and then a little later, the Intellivision and Odyssey 2. And I would just be a nuisance going over to all my friends' house, and even people I barely knew, just to play their game systems, and all that kind of stuff.
So what is your favorite video game console of all time? Like, where's the pivot point for you?
Well, I'm going to give you my favorite classic console of all time and my favorite modern console. Okay. So my favorite classic is the ColecoVision, and part of that is just that it's a great console with some excellent ports of great arcade games. And some of those arcade games like Pepper 2 and Ladybug and Mousetrap never fully got their due at the arcade, but once people brought them home and had more time to figure out the strategies and just how great these games are.
Sure.
And they sort of gave them a second life, and it was just a fantastic. That was the first console that I actually owned. I got it for Christmas in '82, and I was 15, and that was, just mind blowing to have that in my house because before that I'd only been able to, play all these systems at other people's houses and stuff. So that's part of it's a nostalgic thing, but part of it's a great console.
Sure.
And my favorite modern system is the PlayStation 2 because it's got, not only does it has just a ton of great arcade collections, including for, it's backwards compatible with the PS1. Sure. Plus it's got all these great compilations. I love the third-person 3D hack and slash game like God of War.
Yeah, I love those too.
Yeah, those are great, and I love the two Maximo games. I think those are very under. I mean, Maximo Goes to Glory had positive reviews when it came out, but you just never hear about it anymore. And then Army of Zen, Maximo and the Army of Zen, that was a really good game too. So there's a lot of those. Shinobi is cool on that system, and just a lot of those good, just hardcore hack and slash games. So I'm a big fan of the PS2 and the ColecoVision.
Yeah,
and I also love the PS2 controllers, the double, and the PS1. The what do you call it with the two sticks?
The DualShock.
Yeah, I love the dual.
Yeah.
To this day, that's still one of my 2 or 3 favorite controllers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've actually been harping on our podcast for a while about if anybody wants to get into collecting and wants to do it, at a reasonable price. PS2 is probably it's a great system to collect for, a great system overall, but it's also relatively cheap to collect for. And I've been kind of going a little bit nuts myself on PS2. And you mentioned the arcade compilations, but if you like Neo Geo at all, King of Fighters, Art of Fighting,
Right.
Samurai Showdown, any of the Neo Geo games, there's the arcade compilations, but there's compilations of basically all of those Neo Geo games on PlayStation. I just got the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology for
Oh, no.
PS2 the other day, and it's got 5 Street Fighter Alpha games on. It's got 1, 2, or it's
Right.
got it's got 1, 2, 3, 0, and Gym Fighters, I think, on it. And I got it for $7, and I rarely buy off eBay, but this was $7 on eBay, sealed, shipped for like $3. So for $10,
a stupid bargain.
Yeah, I mean it's
stupid cheap.
it's a little ridiculous. But yeah, I got that in the Art of Fighting compilation for just about the same amount of money off of eBay.
Well, it's definitely a buyer's market for the PS2 and the original Xbox. I mean, those are killer systems. That's 10 years from now we're going to be saying so many great games complete in the package were so cheap then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I think.
Yeah, we've been Shane's all over Xbox and I'm kind of all over PS2, and I guess we both cross over a little bit, but those are the things that are kind of keeping us interested, at least in collecting right now, because a lot of the things I really like collecting for, like NES, it's gotten so horrendously expensive that I've really been limited on how quickly I've been able to acquire things I don't have on that, because most of them are just stupid expensive. So you have kids, right, Brett?
I do. They're both in college.
Both in college. So are your kids gamers?
My daughter was a little bit for certain titles. Big fan of Super Monkey Ball and a few other just specific titles. Pretty casual, but pretty hardcore on a couple games. She loved SSX Tricky and a few others. My son likes the Mario games and a few others, but they're both definitely just casual gamers.
All right, not like Dad.
But yeah, they didn't quite. Growing up, my son and I played quite a bit. Loved the Streets of Rage 2-player. That was great. Toe Jam and Earl, played a lot of 2-player. I got him a Sega Genesis for his room when he was little, and that was during that was sort of PS2 era at that time. And so I just got him a cheap system with a ton of games in his room. So he'd have his own little system there, and that was fun. But so we've always enjoyed gaming to a degree. Just he's not as into it as I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to use reverse psychology on my son, because I try to push him to play video games, sort of like a parent overemphasizes like a sport to a kid, to the point that they hate it and want to quit it. So I figure if I really push him hard on video games, he'll be really book smart and probably end up being president or something. So
that's a brilliant.
So yeah,
brilliant
I'm pretty
plan.
sure my kid will end up. He likes them right now, but I'm pretty sure he'll end up hating them at the end, because the only way to rebel against me is to hate video games. So
that's right.
Well,
it's funny. Parents nowadays try to get their kids into classic rock and stuff, and back in the 60s and 70s, and that was, or in 50s too, with Elvis, that was Satan's music. The Beach Boys were considered satanic, and stuff. And now, parents try to get their kids to listen to classic rock.
Yeah, no, it is a little bit crazy. Yeah, my wife keeps telling me you're going to corrupt them, and I'm like, no, they'll be thinking this is baby stuff when they get older. Yeah. What's your favorite game of all time, Brad?
Favorite game of all time is Mr. Do.
Mr. Do. That's
huge Mr. Do fan.
All right, that's a good pick.
Yeah, it's easy to pick up and play, but at the same time, it's got tons of strategies. It's very deep. It's deceptively deep. There's a whole bunch of ways to score points and to progress and different strategies to use. And I just never get sick of it. To me, a really great video game, something like Robotron or Defender or Asteroids, is like baseball or football or basketball. They're perennial. They just remain great, and you can still pick them up and play them. You don't put basketball or baseball or football away in your garage or your attic. Just the way I don't put Mr. Do or Dig Dug or some of these greater classic games. I don't put them away. They're just still there. Junior Pac-Man, stuff like that. So but I'm a big fan of maze games, and I loved Mr. Do in the arcades. And then the Super Nintendo version is really cool because it has a 2-player battle mode that's exclusive to the SNES, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I've got a I don't have very many arcades. I've just got 3 of them actually, but one of them is Asteroids. And, and I love my Asteroids arcade. Sometimes I'll go a couple months without playing it or whatever, but then I'll sit there and play it, every day for 2 weeks in a row, trying to beat my score from the day prior.
Sure, it's fine.
And
the only one I have is Galaga, but when I say arcade, I mean like usually on a disc.
Sure, no, I got you.
But I do have Galaga. We picked that up. A friend of mine was selling it, that was my son's favorite game. So we went in on it and got it. But speaking of Asteroids, back in the day when Asteroids was new, I was in junior high school, and there was an Asteroids machine around the corner from my junior high. And back then, people didn't worry that much about store owners, didn't worry that much about truancy or about being there during school hours and that kind of stuff. And so sometimes I'd be late to school and playing Asteroids, and I'd go there after, and I got obsessed with that game, where I got to where I could just play it nonstop on 1 quarter, and they had to kick me out. I was there like 4.5 hours one night on 1 quarter, and they finally had to kick me out because the store was closing. So, I mean, I'm a pretty decent game player. I'm not like great, but I'm pretty good. But the one game I truly mastered was the original arcade Asteroids. That was my game back in the day.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever mastered it. I still feel like I suck at it.
Well, I use that cheat where you leave one slow rock floating, and then you keep flying up the screen and shooting the little saucer that comes out. But that's still challenging because you're gonna shoot that rock eventually, and then as you get into it, the screen gets really crowded.
Yeah, I've heard that some of the original units, there was a cheat where you could put your ship up in the tire where the score was up at the top, and nobody could shoot you if you were up there. But they fixed that in later models, and as near as I can tell, mine doesn't have that cheat because I try to hide behind the score and I still get killed.
Yeah, I didn't. The machine I played back then either didn't have it or I didn't know about it.
So I also wanted to ask you, we talk about these conventions and retro game conventions and that sort of thing are kind of they're kind of a to-do now. There's a lot of them that have popped up. There's several that have been around for a little while, and I know that you make the rounds to a fair number of these, and we're always getting questions from our listeners of like which ones of these are should I go to, or even I guess even for me personally, since we're still a relatively newish podcast, we're trying to decide where we want to go and all those kinds of things. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what are your, not without dogging on any of them obviously, but what are your favorites? Which are the ones that you really look forward to going to?
Well, for years I'd heard about the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and I had never been before because it's far from Fort Worth, Texas, where I live. And I'm not a big fan of flying, and so I've just always kind of put it off. Well, Rick Weiss, who runs the show, he had talked about having me out as a guest, and so finally I said, okay, I'm just going to go. I've always heard it was an incredible show, and I went this year, and it was phenomenal. It was so much fun, and they had such a great crowd, and I sold a bunch of books and other stuff, and it was cool. So Portland, I would immediately put it there. Classic Game Fest in Austin is really awesome. It's an annual show at the end of July each year, and it's just very well attended, and a lot of a lot of 8-bit bands out there if you're into that sort of thing. Good vendors room, really good speakers, and for years, I went to the Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, and since the guys opened the museum in Frisco, Texas, they're not doing the convention anymore. So for years that was my favorite, but I think Portland has taken the place of that as far as the
one that you're looking forward to.
Well, now that I've been, but as far as having like this year, for example, it had the 40th anniversary of Atari, and they had a lot of the old programmers out there.
Oh yeah.
From Atari, and so that's kind of what Classic Gaming Expo used to do, and this year they had a 1980s living room set up in the vendors room, and that's what Classic Gaming Expo used to do. They had the Saturday night auction, which is something else they borrowed from Classic Gaming Expo. So I think it's going to take it's pretty much the destination place. And but as far as one I go to a lot is Retropalooza. That's pretty near me in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they've expanded to Houston and San Antonio. And that's always a fun show, especially, it's funny, each show has like sort of a personality. Retropalooza they specialize in having YouTubers out. So if you're a fan of like Pat Contry, 8-Bit Eric,
Game Chasers,
Norm the Gaming Historian, if you like those guys, Retropalooza is a lot of fun. And there's the Let's Play Gaming Expo. It's in the Dallas area also, and they have tons of arcades. So each show has their specialties, but those are some I really look forward to each year.
Yeah, so many cons, so little time. I wish I could go to more of them, but it's hard to get all three of our schedules lined up to be able to get to very many of these things.
Well, it's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, 10 years ago, it was scarce. I think I went to the 2003 Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, and that was one of the first conventions I'd gone to, because there really weren't any in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I would have to go up to Oklahoma, or to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is about 4.5 hours away for my closest convention. Now there's, one in Austin each year, a couple of different ones in Dallas each year, and so it's gotten, on one hand, it's really great. You can, if you live in a big city, you're probably in driving distance of a convention each year.
Sure. Hey, and I also wanted to briefly at least touch on your new book that's coming out.
Yeah.
I'm actually really looking forward to this, because the SNES is sort of my bread and butter. I mean, when I think back to my childhood, I probably remember the SNES better than I do any other system, and probably spent more time on it than any other system. But you have a big new project that you're getting ready to release.
Yeah, so it's scheduled for either spring or summer, and it's called the SNES Omnibus, the Super Nintendo and its games. It's going to be divided into 2 volumes, and what it is, it's every U.S. release. The first volume covers A through M. So if you just look for SNES Omnibus, you'll find it, because I've got it available for pre-order now. If you go to brettweisswords.com, you can find it for pre-order, and you get some extras if you pre-order. And anyway, but it's so I'm doing a write-up for every single U.S. release for Volume 1, which is A through M, and in addition to just write-ups for every game, like gameplay descriptions and all that kind of stuff for every game, history, some data, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
In addition to just standard write-ups, the book also has nostalgic stories by prominent gamers, YouTubers, programmers, authors, and people like that. So Blake Harris, who wrote Console Wars, has contributed. Tim Lepetino, Art of Atari, he's contributed. Just 8-Bit Eric, the YouTuber, and a bunch of people in the industry. One of the old Intellivision Blue Sky Rangers has some stories in there. Sega Genesis programmer Steve Wojta. Just a lot of different prominent names in the industry have nostalgic stories, and these stories take you back to what it was like in the 90s when you would, rent games at Blockbuster, or you'd go to Toys R Us and get a ticket and take it up front to that magical room at the front with all those games inside that you could barely get a peek. The door would open and they'd get your ticket and they would take it back, and you'd kind of turn around and peek in there and you just saw stacks and
you
stacks
could hear
of
the angels
games.
singing, back behind.
Yeah. Exactly. And, just this magical place. So this book has a lot of stories like that really take you back to the 90s of the console wars and the whole thing with gaming in the 90s. So it's, in addition to just, raw information and everything you need to know about each game, gameplay wise, and, when it came out and what kind of game it is and all that good stuff, you've got a lot of stories, a lot of color.
Sure.
And there's over 2,000 photos, and it's a big, massive hardcover book. 2-volume set, but the first volume will be out spring or summer.
Okay, and I just as an aside, I wanted to heap a little bit of praise onto you, if that's okay. I know that you say there's a write-up about every game, and there are other books where there's quote unquote write-ups of games, but I just want our listeners of our podcast to know I've read your work, and the write-ups are really good. They're factual. They tell you about the games. They relay some stories, and they really give a good synopsis of, even without having the game in front of you, exactly what the game is about, but you write in a way that's very relatable, but still filled with a lot of information, rather than just factoid. Like, I literally can pick up one of your books and read it and read it through and be entertained by it. And I think for an encyclopedic or informative type source, that's a hard thing to pull off. But But somehow you're able to do that with the way that you write, and I really get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I think part of it is, I'm a gamer and a writer, but I'm a writer by trade, and I'm a writer who writes about games as opposed to a gamer who decides to write about games.
Exactly.
And I don't mean to put anybody else down. It's just how it is. And I mean, if I was a gamer who works on my toilet, I'm not going to be as good at it as a plumber.
Yeah, sure. No,
And so, even though I might fix it, but just being a writer first and foremost, and a gamer and I've also grown up with gaming, every console generation. So
sure.
That helps, and I wrote for the All Game Guide for years, and so I kind of honed my. I wrote a lot of bad reviews for the All Game Guide to get to where I am today.
Sure.
So I appreciate you saying that.
Oh yeah. No, it's not a problem. But that's the thing that's always impressed me the most about your writing in particular is that it's very relatable, it's very readable. But then you think, man, I really learned a lot by reading that, and it's just hard to take cold hard facts and really turn them into something that people can read and enjoy the way that they can the things that you write. So I would.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone, that listens to us. I think if you look at Brett's basically anything that I've read that you've written, I think people who enjoy us will enjoy you. Is sort of the thing. So you come highly recommended.
Well, thanks. I've got 9 books so far, if you count my Super Nintendo one coming out, and they're all accessible, as I've mentioned, through BrettWeissWords.com. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Sometimes I think writing books about video games is kind of like making bicycles for fish. I mean, because. And gamers are smart people, but a lot of the intelligence is technology, and like they know how to program, they know how to, take something apart and put it back together, they know how to solder, they know all this technical stuff that I'm clueless about, and they're not necessarily going to be readers,
Sure,
big time. So. Anyway, luckily there's enough gamers that are into reading where the books do reasonably well, or I'd have to stop doing it.
Well, and I mean even loftier things than that, like I alluded to earlier, is it's sort of like if you look at the film industry, and that's kind of what for lack of a better comparison, that's what I always sort of think about the game industry or games being sort of like. And back when film was in its infancy, there are all these films that were made and all these things that were done that were basically lost to the dust because no one at the time said, oh, hey, this is going to be a big thing that people are really into and really describes us as a culture or a people or what we're into or whatever. And early on, people didn't really recognize that, and there wasn't really a good effort to, hey, maybe we should preserve some of these things so people will just know about it so they understand us better, but also be able to build upon it. And I really think that the early video game industry, and even the video game industry to a large extent now, is very much still that way. Like everybody just sees it as, oh, well, it's just entertainment, it's all consumable, and then just throw it away and walk off. But there are a precious few number of people who exist, you being one among them, that are into the preservation aspect of this, that people, long after we've all gone away, not to be too bleak, but
I understand.
Where somebody can go back and say, hey, that's what people were doing then, and get a better sense of who we were and what we were into. So I think from that perspective, my mom's a librarian, just as an aside, so
cool.
I could blame her for part of this, but you're the person who takes these things and canonizes it, for lack of a better term, for people to someday later to come back and say that's what they were doing back then, and I think that's important.
It was in the mid 90s. I was working on a Super Nintendo / Sega Genesis book because those systems were still out, and I tried to find a publisher, and I was unsuccessful in finding a publisher. I mean, I had a whole thing written up called Captain Cartridge Rates the Games. And I was going to have a star system, and it wasn't going to be complete. It'd be real hard to do a fully comprehensive book on those systems back then, without all the resources we have now. But, with online manuals and things like that, without all that. But, I just couldn't find a publisher. And, around the same time, Leonard Herman had written Phoenix, The Fall and Rise of Video Games, and he had his Atari ABC to the VCS, a guide to Atari, 2600 games, and so he predates me writing about video games, but he was definitely an inspiration for, he wrote a comprehensive book about the Atari 2600, every game listed with write-ups. Well, I sort of picked up that torch and, did every other system. The NES, the 5200, 7800, and all that, et cetera, and on and on and on, television, ColecoVision. As a matter of fact, my first book in that series, the Classic Home Video Game series, came out a decade ago this year. So that was another milestone this year.
You're all about milestones right now.
This year, 2017.
Yeah.
And I was born 50 years ago, first published story 20 years ago, first book 10 years ago. So, it was, this is the year of the milestone. I guess if you live long enough, you're going to have one of these years where everything comes together.
Sure. So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. But I wanted to ask you one question. I'm sure that your plate's completely full with this SNES stuff that you're doing right now. And I do follow you on Facebook, so I know that's probably what's most foremost in your mind and your biggest project currently. But I was going to see if I could weasel any potential future projects that you might be wanting to do, or if you had a dream project, what would you want to do?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I've stopped and started a novel for a while. I'd love to do a novel that would really blow up big, like Ready Player, not copy it, but just in the vein of, Lucky Wonder Boy or Ready Player One or something, just
sure.
A sort of a breakout novel. And I've written enough fiction to think I could do it. It's just been a stop and started progress, right? Work in progress kind of thing. But I have to write so much nonfiction just to, have a day job, because
Sure.
it pays, pretty quickly. And so, sitting down and writing a novel is not going to pay anything for a long time.
Yeah,
if at all. I mean, it's a crapshoot to write a novel.
Yeah, it really is.
And but yeah, so I've got all these publications I write for, and editors to keep happy and all that stuff. So, but that, and I don't know. I may at some point do a Genesis project like I'm doing with the Super Nintendo right now.
Okay.
And I'm working on a book of short stories that'll be out soon. A friend of mine designed the cover that's really cool. It's called The Arcade and Other Strange Tales, and that'll be available pretty soon. And so yeah, that should keep me busy for a while. I'll be working on Volume 2 like crazy. Well, I am, because Volume 1 for the SNES Omnibus has been turned into the publisher. I'm just waiting for the I'm drawing a blank right now. They'll send me the pages back for me to prove the proof pages.
Sure.
Back to look them over, and then I'll send them back in and all that stuff. So Volume 1 is basically written, and now I'm working on Volume 2. So outside of that, it's hard to see too much beyond this.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you'll be happy to get all of that behind you in some respects.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I finish a book, I'm just like, man, it's such a relief, and I'm so glad. But it doesn't take maybe a week or two, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I'm like, I'm never going to do that again. That was terrible. I'm done. That was hard. That was very difficult. But then a couple of weeks later, I got the itch, and I'm wanting to start another project.
Sure.
Well, how it goes.
The thing, following you on Facebook and that sort of thing right now, that I find, like you were talking about, you have all these collaborators and people who you're working on who are writing these, short stories and that sort of thing for all these various games. And, there's a huge number of people who are involved in this current project. Like, to me, it's just, it seems like a mind-numbingly awful web of horribleness to coordinate all of these people who are feeding you stuff to compile into a thing,
Yeah,
it just seems like an awful lot to keep track of.
Yeah, for SNES Volume 1, there's 79 contributors.
Yeah, it just seems
and,
like...
some people contributed one story, some people contributed 10 or 12. Michael Thomason, the guy that was acknowledged, the Guinness Book of World Records, world's largest video game collection, he's written like 12 or 15 just for the first volume, probably more.
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been a challenge, in editing, when writers and authors turn their work in, it's pretty much done, and I'll just kind of maybe polish it up a little bit. But then, YouTubers and other people, and I'm not downplaying their work at all. They've done an amazing job of taking me, everybody back to the 1990s when you read these stories, but they're not writers first and foremost. So I've done a lot of editing, just to make it read like something a professional publication has to read. So there's been a whole lot of editing. So yeah, it has been a challenge just to get all these stories edited and organized and make sure everybody gets credit and all that good stuff. But it's been really humbling and such an honor for everybody to, contribute these stories, and they're excited about seeing their name in print. They're excited about, sharing a special time in their life. And so many of these stories, so many people said, this holds a special place in my heart, and it's like video games really mean a lot to a lot of people. And so much of it was just shared experiences with friends and family members. People bonded over these things, and it really comes through in the story.
Sure. All right. Well, I think I've probably eaten up about enough time of yours, Brett, but I really do appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
Oh, I'm absolutely happy to. One more thing that I wanted to mention a little bit earlier is when we were talking about video game book publishing. A lot of people now, you have a lot of people that are just going to be negative about anything.
Yeah, we've run into a few of those.
Yeah. There's so many video games books being published, and that's relatively true compared to what there was 10 years ago when my first book came out. But if you look at other entertainment industries, it's just a tiny, tiny sliver of what's been written about sports and movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff. So there's plenty more video game books. If you've got an original idea and you've got a niche you can carve out, there's plenty of room. And there's no biography of Shigeru Miyamoto, so there's obvious gaps in the publishing industry with video games. So there's room for plenty more. So anyway, if anybody says there's too many video game books, don't believe them.
Yeah, they're not living in reality.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, it's been fun.
No, it has been. I really do appreciate you, seriously, coming on and doing this.
Much appreciated, and I'd be happy to be on again once the book comes out.
Sure. Yeah. Well, maybe we can make it happen, dude.
All right. Great.
All right, man. Thanks for your time.
Oh, you bet. Thanks for reaching out. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the podcast. Again, you can leave us reviews on iTunes or whatever podcast app of your choice is. Please send us an email at videogamedads@yahoo.com with any video game book club picks or just to say hi. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/videogamedads, or get us on Snapchat or the Twitters at videogamedads. And we look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you, and have a nice day.